side of the hall. We're going to be starting in about a minute. So I'm going to ask you if you're outside looking at the mining rigs, taking some photos. We're starting in about a minute, so please make sure you've got your drinks, you're comfortable, and we'll see you shortly.
Now into
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, welcome everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Sorted? Done? Firstly, a very big welcome to you all. I know it's a Friday night and people in Durban tend to like to stay at home. I know I do. So thank you very, very much to everyone. We are expecting a few latecomers. Unfortunately, there is an accident on the N2 which is preventing a few people from being here on time. So I will just ask you to be patient as people obviously come in. It might be a little bit disruptive, but not too bad. I'd like to, it's quite surreal to be standing here really. I'd like to, at the start, just again extend a really warm welcome to you and a big thanks to James, Catherine and Mark that put together this event. I think without them we would never be here, and this is quite a far cry to a story I'll tell you shortly, but I think I'd just like to have everyone put their hands together for James, Catherine and Mark. So, my name is Sean Ritson. I'm the co-founder of SA Crypto, along with Nicholas Allen. And the reason this is so amazing to me is because a little over a year ago, I was trying to do events like this, carrying a 32-inch TV under my arm, up to the Lineage coffee shop in Hillcrest. Some of you might be familiar with it. And, at 9:15, waiting for people that were supposed to arrive at 9. And, a good time was had by the 8 of us eventually. But, for me personally, this is just incredible. And I think it's testament to the effort that James has put in with his guys. This community, our Telegram group and WhatsApp, we were growing quite rapidly. Again, just to tell you a bit of a short story of it is, sitting in Nick's study, talking crypto and blockchain, as I'm sure many of you were a little while ago, or maybe are doing now, geeking out on blockchain and those sorts of things. We thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could have other people to connect with and talk to? Wouldn't this be cool? This is a whole new industry. This is a whole new sector. This sort of levels the playing field, in terms of blockchain adoption and implementation. Obviously, our CEOs, we're not going to go into those, but I mean, there's good and there's bad with everything. But we thought, wouldn't it be cool to create this sense of community? And wouldn't it be cool if on this platform people could create for themselves a voice? Wouldn't it be cool if they could create businesses? What if? And to be honest, I don't think we took the what if question very seriously. It was like, what if? That would be cool. And I'd encourage you to have those what if visions because sort of, like I say, just a little over a year ago, we were imagining these things. And, we've got Kevin, who's got a merchandise stand outside and a mining setup as well. Gerald as well. Eddie as well, who was speaking shortly to us. There's a number of guys that have been able to create for themselves a voice and identity on this platform, which is amazing, and create businesses, which is, you can't really plan it. So for us personally, the what if has been amazing. And to be here tonight in front of you all it really is something. So again, just to James and everyone else, and I'll go through the sponsors in detail a little bit later, just to thank you all. Thank you to everyone here tonight for coming out this evening. It's your first time being exposed to SA Crypto, or potentially, some of the speakers here tonight. I do encourage you to learn as much as you can. Stick around at the end. We'll be having a little bit of a drinks and a networking session. There'll be a Q&A panel. So I would encourage you to write any questions down you may have, but we will keep them to the end. So please do that. We will be having some prizes throughout the evening as well. Don't worry, everyone is entered. If you have a ticket tonight, your name is in the lucky draw, so we will have some prizes. And we'll go through, and hopefully everyone will have a good time. Like I said, please, if you've got any questions, we'll keep them through to the end, but definitely the session is for us to all talk and share. Before I welcome up Eddie, who's speaking first, I'd just like to make a special mention to Ryan Moore. So Ryan Moore has kindly donated the selfie mirrors that you'll see inside and outside. Please go outside, take some photos, cheesy photos. All the photos will be uploaded to the SA Crypto Twitter and Facebook pages with the tags SA Crypto Summit and SA Crypto. So you're welcome to go and search for those. A big thanks to Ryan for donating those for this evening. Very, very cool. And yeah, like I said, we've got a number of thanks to give to sponsors, which I'll go through in more detail. But to kick it off, again, thank you everyone for arriving and being patient with the delayed start. I'd like to welcome Eddie first. He's going to be talking to us on, I'm just checking you off first, Eddie. You gave me that look. Eddie's going to be talking to us on technical analysis. For anyone who's on the SA Crypto community, you will be very familiar with Eddie. Eddie is one of those guys who has given selflessly of his time, his study, has given his advice freely. He's got a very popular persona on the SA Crypto channel, and if he's not talking for a little while, everybody asks, where's Eddie? Kev, we should actually get some shirts. Where's Eddie? Can we do that? I'd be one. So yeah, I'd like to welcome Eddie up. He's going to be going through technical analysis with us. And yeah, I think it's perfectly timed. Last year there was a lot of excitement and hype, but I think the principles around technical analysis remain true. And Eddie, I'd like to welcome you up.
Come on. Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Sean. Thank you, James, and your team. This is really awesome. I think it's really great. I don't know how many people are here, but 100 and so. I think there probably would have been 1,000 in December. But this is probably the avid crypto fanatics. So we'll see where Bitcoin goes. How do I get involved in this? I'm no expert. Sean actually introduced me to trading one day in the office. We had a chat, and I thought, geez, this is pretty cool. But I learned the hard way. I really learned the hard way. It was last year, so I've only been trading just over a year, I think about 18 months. I first started emotional trading, trying to understand fundamental analysis, which I'm really poor at. And I just got raped. I just really, looking at all the faces right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's so difficult, with a market that doesn't close, with a price that you don't know where it's going. There's so many external influences, regulation, manipulation, different markets coming on at different times. It's mindful. And if you look at any person that's trying to trade Bitcoin on emotion, it's probably got no fingernails and probably very poor, because you just can't do it on emotions. It's just very difficult. You will trade yourself to zero. That I can guarantee you. And how I got involved in technical analysis, because I thought, how do people make money in this? Because I've heard of people who are making reasonable time in traditional markets and these crypto markets, and I was wondering, and I sort of Googled around, and I found this thing called technical analysis. And it was quite an eye-opener, and I got quite into it and spent many sleepless nights studying this technical analysis, and it really, for me, it started to work, because I was really crummy at the emotional thing, I was really crummy at the fundamental analysis, and technical has made a lot of sense to me. And for the first time, I was actually making a few bucks, which was quite cool. So, firstly, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to give you advice in terms of buy Bitcoin, don't buy it, in terms of the trade. That's the other thing that I've learned in this game, is that you need to go on your own trade, work your own trade. The more people you listen to, or the more people that you follow, the less trades you will make. Because every person has a different view, an interpretation of that chart, or what the market's doing. You have to start trusting yourself, but you have to understand what those markets are doing, and you have to do your own homework. That's something I learned. So I don't follow anyone. I look at the chart, and I work the chart, what I see and what I've learned from my failures. And I've had many. The other day I panicked, so we all do it. But we learn from it. We take those as learning opportunities. So for me, technical analysis made a lot of sense. I think I just have to, there's no nice click here. So, what do we talk about? I can't really see the slides. Firstly, you've got to have some decent chart platform. There's two that I could recommend, and that's TradingView or Coinergy. I only use TradingView because that's what I've traded on in the 18 months, and that's what's worked for me. So I'm not going to change that recipe. So I know how to bake a cake. I want to bake that cake every time, so I'm not changing my software. I like TradingView, they're pretty cool. I'm going to teach you a little bit, just the basics of technical analysis, because if I start getting into the complexity of technical, it's just going to go like this. You're not going to understand it. Is it just by a show of hands, who understands technical analysis? A little bit of it. He's done some research. So a few of you, great. So what's important? Time frames are extremely important in technical analysis. Now, time frame in terms of a chart can go from 1 minute up to a monthly chart. Okay, and those are important depending where you find yourself is the best suitable place in terms of your trading period. Whether you're a day trader, a long-term trader, short-term trader, depending on. So you've got to find your own way. I only look at 3 charts. That's a 4-hour chart, an hour chart, a day chart, and a week chart. I might go look into the hourly charts, or the half-an-hour charts, or the 30-minute charts, just to see if you get some sentiment in terms of the buying and the selling behavior. Candlesticks. It's all about candlesticks. I don't know if you've ever seen a chart. You'll see the candlesticks. I'll go through it just now. If you understand candlesticks, and that's the fundamentals of a chart, your charting will make a lot more sense if you understand these boys. Volume, obviously, volume's got something to do with it, because that's how much is traded, or that's how much is sold, or that's how much is bought. So volume, you've got to look at every chart or every technical analysis opportunity with volume in mind. Support and resistance, very simple. That's when buyers find support and resistance in terms of, I'll go through that a little bit more later on. Trend lines, trend is our friend. The trend lines are very expensive because it gives you a bit of a future. I'll go into more of these in more detail. Moving averages, very important. Patterns, so an array or a series of candlesticks will give you a pattern, and those will give you certain opportunities with some indicators to make a trade. Technical indicators, and then stops. So a lot of people ask me about stops. So if you understand stops, it's basically if you've gone long on a position, where if it pulls back or it retracts, where will you put your stop? Where will you sell it? What's your limit? Now, a lot of people say to me, I use 10%, 12%. I'll go through why not to do that. So just so you understand where to put your stops if you are trading on a TA platform. Candlesticks, I can't emphasize this more. So the market consists of 2 people, and they're on a battlefield. There are bulls and there are bears. Bears want the price to go down, bulls want the price to go up. Everybody get that? So do yourself a favor, for $100, go read the book from Sun Tzu. It's called Art of War. And that'll give you a little bit of understanding what bulls and bears do and why they do it. Okay? So a bullish candle is generally, you'll see on the chart, it's a green candle because the price is moving up, the price is going up. And where you see here little here. So that's the price. So this will be a period. So this could be 4 hours or a week or an hour. That's a full period of a candle. So that's the lowest price it ever got to in that period. For that hour or for that 4 hour, price was at its lowest. The top of the candle, which these things are called lul, they're called wicks, is the highest price it ever got to. That's where it opened on that period. So from the previous period to the current period, or the just closed period, that's where it opened. And it closed up there, which means it was a bullish candle, okay? Because it closed higher than it opened. Make sense? Okay? A bearish candle is when price is coming down. Again, we've got the upper price and we've got the lower price. It opened at the top and it closed at the bottom. Pretty simple. Okay, there's a nice cheat sheet. And you probably would have, most of you that have looked into TechNet would have seen this candle sheet. Now, basically what this gives us, because a number of candles will provide a story, because it's a series of candles. Just to give you some examples, because these can get very complicated, and I don't want to overcomplicate your mind. I just want you to understand what a candle is. But you can start looking at candles in series for signals of when a series of candles is becoming oversold or overbought, because they have a story to tell, every one of them. So if you look at some bullish candles, you get what you call a hammer candle. Okay, so price was moving down. The candle ended with no wick on the top, with the bulls winning the fight. Okay, so there it ended. So the price came down, the bulls pushed it up. The next candle, in most cases after hammer, will be another green candle. Okay, but the same is there as well. You've got a shooting star and some of the other the hangman. So what I would advise, because I only have 45 minutes and I could take 45 minutes to teach you about candles, is go and study this thing. Go and understand what candles to look for. And I really like hammers, dojis, that stuff. These spinning tops, because there's a bullish and there's a bearish one. Market's very undecided here. Because you see the bulls and the bears were fighting, and they really got to a point where they had a stalemate for that particular period. So they tell a lot of stories, these things, that can assist you in making your decision. So when you come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, you've had too many beers, you jump on there, have a look at the candles first before you say buy or sell. Because some guy at the pub said, hey, Bitcoin's going to tank tomorrow. So check out the candles first. The next thing that's very interesting to me, and that's support and resistance. And why support and resistance is so valuable, because it gives us information about where that price will find support and where it will find resistance. And if you look at this example here, and what support basically means is that's where the limit price is of opportunities for buy. So the bulls will start to say, well, that's the price I will start to buy at. And the bears might change their position at that particular point. So find support there. And what the amazing thing about support and resistance is that generally past resistance will be new support and vice versa. And there's a really good example of that here. It's in April sometime, where we found a lot of this Bitcoin support zone on this long-term trend line here. Found two instances where it found a lot of support. Okay? So if we look at that perspective there. Now, I didn't put the chart in because it was too big. If you move across at some stage, there would have been resistance at that point. So 6.5, I think that's around there. It's about 6.5. You would have found resistance on the other side of the chart. So generally, resistance and support go hand in hand. They just work vice versa to each other. Make sense? Okay, you all still with me? Here's another good example. So in February, after we got smashed by this wolf flag over here, we dropped all the way down and we found resistance almost 3 times, so like a triple top here of resistance at 12k. You all remember this. So everybody thought it was going to break 3 and it didn't. So I'm not a big believer in triple tops. But you see there, it bounced on this resistance and it was just too strong. That the market just didn't feel confident enough that it deserved to be above that price. That's what resistance is. And you can actually start to start putting these lines across here to find, personally, if Bitcoin doesn't move past 12, I won't put a trade in if it doesn't move between 12 and 10. Purely because that's where it's going to find most of this resistance. I think a couple of weeks back we got to about 10. Even that was difficult for Bitcoin. 10 is quite a psychological number for people. It found a lot of resistance there. So, Bitcoin to break this 12 is going to take a lot of convincing the bulls to rally and move up. But that's just to give you some perspective of what resistance and support is. And understand them because they can really help you in your trade. Because when a trade is falling or it's rising, you know when you're going to enter the trade, when you're going to leave the trade, purely because you know that the resistance is at that level or the support is at that level. So follow your trade down to that support, and that's where you're going to make decisions. Is it bouncing off that support or is it breaking the support? And then you'll look for the next support. And you'll look at previous resistance for that new support. Okay, across the chart. So you have to zoom out on your chart. And that's why I don't like 3-minute candles, 5-minute candle charts, purely because they don't give you enough zooming ability to make decisions on resistance and support. Make sense? So here you can see, here's a good example of where we had support. So this was around, I think it was around May. There was quite a lot of resistance here. You see, it sort of bounced in the zone quite a bit before it broke out. So there's its breakout point. It went up and it came back. But it found support in the same area it had resistance. Make sense? You see it, John? So there you have a lot of resistance in that particular time period, bouncing up and down there in the zone. And then later it broke out, came back into the zone, it found support and then broke out again. So it makes sense to you guys? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So that's why it's really, really important to understand support and resistance. What it also gives you is that if you enter a breakout trade where it breaks out that pattern, and we'll start talking about patterns a little bit later, the previous support would be your new resistance. That's where you're going to put your target for your sell. Okay, so that's why it's extremely important to understand where your resistance and where your support zones are within the chart. Trend lines, trends are our friend because those also give us places of where we'll possibly bounce off resistance or bounce off support. And why is that important? Because you've got to have a few. To draw a trend line, you must have at least 2 to 3 points of where, and draw a line across those points. So there we had one there, almost one there, and over there. So we've been able to draw a trend line across here. So that trend line will act as resistance. You guys get it, Joe? So if we draw this line across here, that was Bitcoin going up in December. And then it started coming down. And it created this symmetrical triangle, which we can talk about a bit later. It broke out there, but it's followed a trend here of resistance, as well as this is a long-term trend line from 2016. It runs across here, and where you have now there's been a lot of support at this particular zone, pulled down there quite a bit. So we're able to draw this trend line across. And I think I did this chart a couple of days ago, and I think it's actually bouncing on that at the moment. We can talk a bit about the Bitcoin current price a bit later, but That's where we are right now. We're down there. It's actually bouncing on that support. I don't know how long it can hold, personally, because we didn't see volume.
Can I ask you what that red line is? And in the previous chart, the green line. Is that
Okay,
current?
let's go back.
So that green line?
Which one?
Yeah, that one?
This one.
Yeah.
I can't see too well. It's big one
And
there.
that green line is current. The one
No,
that
there,
runs-
that's the current price, yeah,
Okay.
that one there. Yeah,
And
that's
the one
current.
with the next slide is the red line is also current.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's current price.
Okay.
So when I drew these charts
Yeah, that-
for this presentation, yeah, that's where the prices were. And they were a couple of days ago, and like I was saying, I think this price is down to about now. 7273. I don't know, has anybody got the current price?
Yeah, 74.
74. So we're about just somewhere. But I know for a fact, when I looked at the chart before arriving here, it was bouncing on that support line.
So based on this information, what are your predictions?
Everyone's like, oh, look at this crap. What's the cost? What I'm trying to share with you is just some tools that you can use, or go and Google or research, just leave some seeds in your head that you don't trade blindly, because it can be disastrous. So moving averages. I love moving averages because there's two types of moving averages. One is a simple moving average and an exponential moving average. I like simple because I don't get too complicated with my charts. I've seen some charts on TradingView, but there's so many indicators I don't know how the guy even sees the price. But moving averages are brilliant, purely because it gives you some idea of the price being smoothed out. So it's really just a number of periods, and the closing price of each of those periods divided by the number of periods that you took. So I like to use this 200 moving average. So that's a 200 period moving average, and then you have another moving average, which is the 50 moving average. And why are they so important? Because they give you lots of information. Just come on. So the market is bullish when it's on the long term, when it's above the long term moving average. So the 200 moving average, which is the blue line, okay? So you can see there, the market became quite bullish over here, became bullish over there, and then became bearish under those lines, under this 200. And you can see right now it's quite bearish within this pattern. So that's what the 200. If you're looking at a day chart, I'll just call it, because I look at day charts a lot. You call that just a 200-day moving average. Okay, so it gives you where support and where resistance could be, because you can see how it's followed this line. There you can see it's had a lot of support over there, and it's had a lot of resistance over there. Okay, there again over there, more support. So it's been bouncing off that 200 moving average. The other information it gives you is that if you take the shorter period, which is a 50 period compared to 200, you use that as a signal line, so which they call crossovers. Okay, so crossovers are quite important because as they cross there, it's a buying signal. Okay, because what that means is the short-term market sentiment is stronger than the long-term market sentiment. And when they cross, it gives you a signal that the market has become more excited. If it's going bullish, and obviously more depressed from a bull's perspective. If it's see where it crossed there. See how it tanked. There was a good signal that day. That was a horrible bear trap. How many people got caught in that bear trap? That's why there's not 1,000 people here, because they're still licking their wounds. Because everybody thought, it's going back up, and everybody smashed the bar, and that bull trap got caught them, unfortunately. So, moving averages, they're very simple, but they give you a lot of information. in terms of the decision making. Obviously, you always look at this puppy down here, and that's volume, and I spoke about it in the first slide. Volume is extremely important because you can see here, see that volume? That's what the price went up. See that volume there? Price came down. So obviously when bulls are buying, the volume bars are green, and the bears are selling, the volume bars are red. So volume is extremely important when you're looking at breakout trading. So if, for example, you're looking at this and saying, well, it would never break out there, in my opinion. So what we would look at as this cone, I'll talk about symmetrical, hang on, let's actually in the next slide, let's talk about that. Okay, is everybody with me on moving averages? Everybody get it? Don't use exponential moving averages, they're very complicated.
Okay.
Simple ones will work fine.
You're talking about the crossovers.
Yes.
Where you are right now, there seems to be a lot of support on the current price line. Where do you see it going from there?
From yeah. You already asked that question. No. What I will do now, I'll fire up my TradingView account and I will give you what I think Bitcoin is going to do. I can do that in some time during the show.
That's what I want actually.
That's what I actually. Where the frick is it? Do you want it? For TradingView. I paid. No, it's a little bit more than that. But there are some special. I think I paid. It was just over 1,000 rand. If you convert it back to dollars. From dollars. Sorry. Yeah, for a year it's going to cost you about $1,000, which you can make in a few hours. All right, patterns. Okay, so what we spoke about candles, the series of candles. We spoke about trend lines, and all those put together make patterns. And these patterns repeat themselves quite frequently, actually. And I'm not going to. There are many patterns. You would have heard about cup and handles and inverted head and shoulders and all types of funny names that would be very foreign to you. So I'm going to go through a few patterns that I think are very simple, because I like to keep charts very simple. And they work for me and they're easy to understand. And once you've mastered these patterns and you've traded these patterns successfully, you can start moving towards the more complex patterns. I don't know, whoever followed Wolf of Pontiac, he sort of had a meltdown, but he was big on these wedges. And I'm big on these wedges because most of my success has come from trading breakouts on wedges. And basically what a wedge is, it's a trend line. And this is a falling wedge. So the top of the cone is bigger here, obviously, than there. And that's why we call it a falling wedge. It looks like it's falling downwards. And that's because price is bouncing in this trend line. But it gets to a point where the bulls and the bears really scrap it out here. And then the bulls actually feel like, hey, hang on, I think this price is really good. And that's because the price is getting squashed all the time. And it has to pop out somewhere. It can either fall out there, which 80% of the time it won't. It breaks out into quite a severe upturn from a falling wedge. So most of my trades have been from falling wedges purely because they're quite predictable. And when they come, when they move down. But only trade it. If you're trading wedges and you're trading breakout tradings, you've got to wait for the breakout. Wait for the trade to come to you. Don't chase the trade. When you make the trade, you set your stop and you let it go based on the volume. So you don't trade it as it hits that to go. You wait for it to go through, break out through that trend line, and then you can trade it. You can see there. That's quite a nice movement. This is Bitcoin Cash, actually. I think that was 100% move. was quite big. Bitcoin had two wedges in succession here, very quickly. So this was in Feb. In 1 month, we saw it moving up in a nice, what we call a rising wedge. So the wedge is moving upwards, and it gets to a point where the bulls want to take some profits. The bears put some shorts in, it breaks through, and it moves down into a falling wedge and breaks out again. So there was two trade opportunities there. One is there, and one is there. Get me?
Yep.
Makes sense? Okay, so I really like falling and rising wedges.
Yeah. So just for I think some people anyway, when you said those are the two trade opportunities, maybe you just unpack that very briefly. Why are those the trade opportunities?
Because it depends what type of trader you are. I'm a breakout trader, so I'll look for these patterns. Okay, so I will look for rising wedges, symmetrical triangles, accumulation zones, and I will look at that and I'll know, okay, I think this is where, based on the trend and what the moving indicators are doing, then I'll make a decision that if it gets to this point, I will trade it based if the volume is at the correct momentum. Okay, does that make sense? So, what I would do now, I'd be watching this trade here. You can, if you've got the experience, to swing trade this within the wedge, but you need to know, there's ladies in the room, because these are quite hectic swing trades. You need to be skilled for them. So what I would do is I'll say, okay, bounce, it's narrowing here. So the price is getting squeezed. The candles get smaller. The market becomes, undecided. So in that case, the bulls are losing momentum. They run out of ammo, and the bears are starting to take over. They're starting to get stronger because you can see this drop here. It's quite severe compared to any of the other drops there. And it hits this support, but the support doesn't hold. Because effectively what could have happened, Joe, could have bounced off there, gone up there, and then only dropped. But it didn't. So the decision here is when it gets to this point, see it bounced a couple of times there, and then it break through. So I would be selling, I would have sold there. Okay? Or I would have gone into a short position. If you're not an experienced trader, don't try margin trading or short trading because you need to be quite experienced. Rather trade bull runs than before get experience with bull trading first. That makes sense?
Can you maybe explain how you use it with other indicators? Because you don't just use one, you use all of them to look.
Yeah, I can get to that. But I just want the audience to understand what a pattern is and how we use a pattern, what patterns are most common that I've seen in the crypto space.
Eddie, leading up to this rising wedge,
Yes,
would you say that there's quite a lot of fundamentals for the traders
absolutely.
before that rising wedge reaches its peak?
Absolutely. Fundamentals you can never exclude, but I read the news, but I don't let it cloud my view. I just trade the chart. Okay, I'm not saying that the technical analysis is better than fundamental analysis or vice versa. Everybody must trade the trade that they want to make. And if you trade your trade, you only got yourself to blame. So there's merit in each of them. But yeah, I would, it might swing my opinion, but very seldom. I just look at the chart and see what the chart's doing. And I know the chart for me, 80% I'm going to be right of the time. To answer the question. So the decision, yeah, so I knew, okay, it's dropped here, bounced there, bounced a couple of times here. So I knew that the support is quite strong. Because if you look at the support, you can see that it found support once, it didn't come back. It got a few green candles here, and then it hit a nice big candle there. And then it hit the break and it hit a big candle. So there is a buying opportunity. There's a very clear breakout on a falling wedge. Make sense? Does that pretty much explain what you're looking for? Ryan, you asked the question.
Yeah.
Cool. This is what's going on right now with Bitcoin. No, actually, this wasn't right. This was that's the famous bull trap. This is leading up to where Bitcoin got to almost 20, I think it was. On Luna, it was a big buck. And then it sort of ring out a little bit. That's where everybody started really getting worried. And then it sort of found some new buyers because everybody was still like, oh, Bitcoin, I'm really rich. And it bounced there, came and tested it again. And that's where people got hurt there, as I said, and then it came down and it bounced once, and that's the breakout point. So that was a perfect symmetrical triangle. Okay. Now, symmetrical triangles are continuation triangles. So what that means is that 75% of the time they will continue with trend. So trend was down. It was moving downwards. The chances, the 75%, that it'll break out this triangle in a downward motion. Make sense? So that's what continuation. So wedges, I didn't explain earlier, I think, are reversals. So they're reverse price. I like symmetrical because they're pretty reliable. The only thing that you don't know if it's going up or down, but generally, I'm quite confident that it'll go with trend. And there, true to form, broke out there. Now what they do a lot, these symmetrical triangles, they always come back and test. So there was support. So there, I was talking about resistance and support. There you found a lot of support. The trend line was there, and it came back and it found resistance on that support line. Make sense? So that's when I say, wherever you found resistance, the next, further on into the future, you're probably going to find, or support, you're going to find resistance and vice versa. Okay, so I just put that just to make sense of that. And then you can see, now, people say, well, how far will it fall? This is why I still think Bitcoin is going down, because it hasn't finished this piece yet. So what they say in symmetrical triangle, the mathematics around it, and the statistical evidence of it, is that what should happen at that point of breakout, there, it should fall the width of that triangle. Yeah. Does that make sense? So, I'll just say it again. So if you measure the distance between there and there of that symmetrical triangle, that's your target in terms of the price dropping from there.
And have we not seen the triangle that size yet?
We haven't seen it fall that far yet. No. So that's why I'm still quite confident Bitcoin's going to drop more.
How safe is Tether?
Oh no, that's another. I'm talking fundamentals. I don't worry about it. I was going to say, I don't worry about it. Really, it doesn't worry me. Print more Tether. You weren't watching Tether in October and November. There was something wrong because every time they printed, the price went up. But it wasn't. If you actually look at the percentage of Tether in the ecosystem, it's minuscule. The problem that it does is that because we're sheep, we move with that swing. So when people are buying, and you only need a certain amount for everybody to get on the train. Everybody wants to get on because everybody's going to make millions, right? So everyone jumps in and they start buying. The Tether was just the spark. Plus the market sentiment, it was just mayhem. And everybody thought, it's never going to stop.
Is it not safe?
Put it this way, if you're trading on Bitfinex, you should be concerned, I think. And if you're moving in and out of Tether, don't do it for a long period of time. That's the safe option, right?
Safe haven, eh?
But then our exchange is safe. Our exchange is safe. Nothing's regulated in this world, guys. Nothing's safe.
No, for sure.
But neither are a lot of other markets. But anyway, we straight. I'm sure the panel's going to love you guys. Okay. So we only got 10 minutes. And here's another continuation pattern, which is an ascending triangle, which basically has a very flat trend line at the top, and it has this upward motion. So price should move upwards with trend. So there you can see it broke out there, and if you take the distance between that and that, is exactly that. You can see where the price goes. Okay. So what I would do in this situation is when I see a pattern of this nature, I would watch it, and then I would know that I would calculate the distance. That's where I put my sell. Okay, my bar would be there, just above there, because you can see volume came up nicely. We've got a nice big green candle after this one. Put a bar, and I'm going to sell there. Make sense? It's these ascending triangles are beautiful because they're just true to form. They just 70% of the time that ascending triangle will work. Sometimes this is where it gets quite interesting, is that they do pull back. But again, like I said, previous resistance would be new support. So sometimes you'll find they come up and they bounce off this and back again. The problem, the people that don't have the experience or don't have the emotional strength will start selling. And then they'll see it going up. Okay, oh God, why did I sell? We've all said that. The same applies to descending triangles. Okay, so we have a nice flat line at the bottom, price moving down, and then again. The distance between there and there is exactly the same. Okay, so I've read thousands and thousands of hours of charts, guys. If people are telling you that technical analysis doesn't work, I will debate with them because I've seen these things work time and time and time again.
Can I ask you to go into the details of how you draw that descending triangle? Sorry,
okay, cool.
Most of us are novices, yeah?
All right. So basically, a trend is just a line of where those price points stopped. Okay, so there you can see, there was one, so I drew a line from there, which is the wick, okay, which is the lowest price that it reached for that period. And I drew the line across there, and then when I start in this line and that line, okay, so that made a straight line across there. So it's more than 2 points to create a line.
But why would you have not started at the top of that wedge? Why would you have not started it at the very top? Like
The straight line, yeah.
No, the top one?
Yeah.
Why would you have not started it at
Because you must do the most current. Does that make sense? So the last two. Because it's too far past. You want to look on current sentiment is everything. You will use the long range, like moving averages there, just to give you some idea of where the market is turning based on the shorter time frame. Does that make sense? Does the lines make sense? Okay, I'm really.
Wow.
Okay.
Wait, you must be blind
Do you need that light?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
quite.
cool.
No, I don't know. Do you need that light?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So,
Sorry.
someone asked about
Sorry.
indicators.
Yeah, they can't see the slides. If the
So
last
somebody
one.
asked about indicators, and that's so we basically covered the trend lines, the patterns, volume, candles. So you've got some idea of, we're trying to put some shapes together on this chart. So we also use other indicators. I'm just going to give you a very simple one. It's called Relative Strength Index, RSI, which is basically just a momentum oscillator. It just gives us, and I use a 14 period here. If you want to go lower, you're just increasing the sensitivity of that index. And what it gives you don't really see it that well here. It will give you oversold and overbought signals. So when the bulls are tired of selling, and the bears are tired of selling, and the bulls are starting to buy, they've sold too many. So a lot of profit's been taken, and they're quite happy with that. And what happens with these is that there's an 80 and a 20 sort of range here, sort of no man's land. And as soon as it breaks out of that 80 or 20, it goes to an oversold indicator. So the price has been oversold. So Bitcoin was a lot of sell, so it's oversold. And then you can see it there bounced off that. So people started buying, and then you see it going up. I don't know if you can see it too clearly. It's got to about there. And then you see these are overbought. You can see they line up quite nicely with the top of the price zone there. So it means that the bulls are exhausted That's RSI is a nice simple gauge to understand where the market price is in terms of its momentum.
Sorry. Would you ever have a breakout there if it's been overbought? That's the trade.
The thing is, what these give you, they just give an indicator of what do I see next in that pattern. So when I start seeing it coming down, I said, well, the chances of it meeting this support line is probably good because we had an oversold area and we're on support. And then as you can see there, it moved upwards with that candle. So it just gives you some indication of where the support is going to hold and where that support is in relation to these other indicators. So if you take the patterns and the candles and you put them all together in the chart, the indicators give you some extra ammunition to understand what that price could predictably do. Does that make sense? Okay, stops. Okay. Now a lot of people tell me that that they use 10%, so they'll put a trade in and say if it was at 8,000, they'll have 800 below 8, at 720, 7.2. They put their stop for at a loss, a stop loss. Does everyone understand what a stop loss is? Okay. The problem with that is the wicks can be very volatile because the price can move in a big range, and you've obviously people that have seen candles have seen very long candles but very small bodies, and that's because if you're using a percentage stop as just a 10% random number, the chances of your stops being hit and price moving up are probably very good. Show of hands who's traded on a stop on a percentage basis and has hit your stop. So I used to trade like that, and I was like, why do all my stops keep getting hit? And there's a nice indicator. It's called an average true ratio or range. And basically that is what it does. It takes the average volatility of every candle. And depending, this is a 14 period. So it will take the volatility in that particular time period and it'll work the highs and lows. Okay? And how high they went from the low price to the high price and what the volatility was amongst them. Okay, for a particular area. And it'll give you a number over here, which could be 0 to many. And basically you take that number, you can times it by 2, and that's the pips. I'm probably going to speak more pips. But that will be the say the price was 10 grand, 10,000, okay, and your ATR was 400. Probably that is not the same as the percentage. You would put your stop at 7,200, okay, based on the ATR. Or you can times it by 1, just depending on what your feeling is and what you're comfortable with in terms of. So ATR is a very cool indicator to give you a measure of volatility, not a random percentage number that just sounds cool. So does that make sense? So I encourage anybody that's doing some charting to use that. Okay, and basically that is it in a nutshell. Technical trading in 45 minutes. So you've probably a lot of you are still thinking, oh, what is all that stuff? It looks really complicated. I haven't even gone into Elliott waves, Fibonacci retractment, 3D indicators. It gets very complex. If you start with trend lines and patterns, simple patterns, some of the RSI indicators, the HRs, and look at your breakout trades in a very simple view, I'm telling you now, you will make better trades. At least you will have something to work on other than you know what the Chinese are doing, you know what the Americans are doing. The prices are manipulated. The exchanges, you know what they're doing. The big sharks, the whales, you know what they're doing. You know, there's lots of things like called painting the tape. Go research that one. So, you know, when you're working in those areas, fundamental analysis also can be very difficult to understand. to interpret. Chart, for me, is the only way is to interpret the price in terms of some behavior that might take place in the future. Okay. I hope you learned something. At least if you learned the words and some of the namings of these patterns, that you can go and research them and have a look at them and see if you can better understand them. There's some really cool sites, Baby Pips. It's really cool, babypips.com. It's nice, it's easy, they don't go too complicated. Explanations are they're easy to read. I learned a lot there. And then there's stockcharts.com. Also quite a cool site to learn about technical analysis and some of the indicators that get used. Okay. Any other questions?
Some sort of pairs that you're trading, so for example, when you're trading a pair with Tether,
Yeah.
some of the other pairs that you're trading is something with Bitcoin. So now you reverse it out of your RCX trade with BTC, but then you, same time you're trying to reverse out your BTC trade back to Tether. How do you deal with that context?
Well, the thing is, so from a trading perspective, I trade in BTC currency. Okay, so if I trade in Ethereum, it will be with BTC. With the goal to make more Bitcoin. Okay, and we'll probably learn further than that, but I don't think there's any other coin but Bitcoin. So that's my view from a trading perspective. From holders' perspective, I don't disrespect the views of those holds on other coins. I'm not here to tell you what coin to buy. I'm telling you I only buy Bitcoin. I only trade Bitcoin. I only trade into Bitcoin. Because it's the only stable currency in the crypto world. If Bitcoin tanks, alts tank. If Bitcoin rallies, alts rally. So I've learned. So if I'm on Binance and I'm going to buy Archon, RCX, I'll buy it with Bitcoin. Okay? I don't have Tether. I don't trade with Tether. Very seldomly. If there's some swing trades, opportunities, then I will trade into Tether, but not for long. It'll be for a few days, a few hours, possibly. Right. Thank you. Cool.
Thank you, Eddie. That's actually the real reason everyone is here tonight.
We can look at a chart.
So you actually can give us a number.
No. I'll tell you what I'll do. I can put up my trading view account and we can look at it. We can look at the price, and if everybody's interested in that, we can do that in the panel discussion whenever we want to do it during the course of the month. And I'll give you my views, what I think the price will do and why.
I think the panel discussion is going to be all at you. I'm just.
Maybe we should just have you.
We're also going to be, Eddie's very kindly offered his time. James will give us a better idea of date, obviously advertise it. I don't know if the date is set for Eddie's talk.
Eddie won't give us a date yet.
You won't give us a
To
date.
nail down Eddie is a difficult thing.
All right, there we go. So Eddie will be by the end of this evening, I believe.
Sorry?
By the end of this evening, Eddie will give us a date. So Eddie will be having a technical analysis, more in-depth, sort of deep diving course. Obviously, 45 minutes, I've researched the topic myself a little bit, and Eddie's done, I think, a phenomenal job in really just getting across some of the key topics that you can obviously go and research. So thank you, Eddie. Next from my side, we're going to be doing a lucky draw, actually. I've got the prizes here. But firstly, I'd just like to introduce Kevin. So Kevin Hughes, he's one of the mining experts on our SA crypto mining community. He actually has a business now that he lives off mining. But he's outside, he's got his mind set up. I'd encourage you to go across, chat to him. He's travelled the world, he's met with some really cool and interesting people. I think he's got a great collection of selfies with some famous guys as well. And some interesting stories, which I'm sure he'll tell you. So yeah, he's kindly put forward some hats, which we're going to lucky draw. Deborah, do you... Oh, there. Would you mind coming out? So very, very kindly put forward some Bitcoin caps. Which one should we do? This one is good. You draw it. Yeah, Right, the winner is Colin Chips. He's here. Four quick clap if you No, redraw, right. Yeah, redraw. It's a little less awkward because actually no Colin. Right. Vimesh Dazier. Pronounce it right?
Which one? That's
I'll give it to you one more. Then I'd like to, so just a brief introduction before we do the next one. So one of the reasons as well, and it's an important reason, shortly after we established SA Crypto with this vision of this community and this education and this ability to connect and share, we started getting really into crypto and blockchain. This was probably around March last year, March, April. And so myself, Nick, Jeff, and Andre, we co-founded another company called the OneCore. And that entity who has kindly donated a prize tonight, that entity is a blockchain R&D and development company, and that business is working very closely with SA Crypto. We recognize that from a community perspective, we want to help educate, and we partner very tightly with them. And OneCore, as a blockchain R&D entity, are really looking to pioneer the space in South Africa and actually bring more to the space in South Africa because there's a big gap, quite frankly. So we're looking to meet if you guys want to just chat and get some advice. Really from our side, we're just interested in the space and looking to help and grow other people. We've got some prizes that we've put forward. Can I ask Nick to come and do the lucky draw? We've got 2 Legend Nano S's tonight. Yes, that we're going to be putting forward.
Dominique Jan van Ransburg. We've only used it once.
Okay.
Next up, we've got James. It's quite a privilege, really. I think since we founded SA Crypto, and obviously we want to be very much involved there. Starting another business is very time consuming, and we've got a passion on both sides. And we've known James for a number of years. James is one of those guys who just runs with it. He's got an incredible ability to make a dream a reality, and for us it just made absolute sense. And James is actually a CEO of SA Crypto. He's running it, he's put together this event, he's coordinated it, and going forward he's obviously going to take this entity from strength to strength, which we're incredibly excited about. So James?
Go James!
I'm going to hand over to you. I'd like just to tell them a little bit more about SA Crypto, yourself, where you see this going, and how you're going to be involved. And yeah, once you're
Cool, thanks man, appreciate it. Sean. Yeah, this is the flashcard for Luke. Luke's going to be there.
Oh, this is presentation. Yeah. You finished preparing?
Yeah, he has.
Can I just get some water here, please? I've just been fighting the flu recently, so my throat is could fall through the descending triangle very, very shortly. So how's it, guys? Yeah, so I'm James, and I'm going to start off by just sharing with you a little bit about my insecurity, my big insecurity. I think we've all got an insecurity that is kind of the one that we worry about the most. We all have more than one insecurity, but there's just that one that you kind of are conscious of the most. Mine is my baby face. And it's a challenge because when you go into a big meeting and you're trying to sell a 2.7 million rand deal, you have to try and overcome this challenge that you look like you're 12. whenever I tell people that I'm 33, I've got 2 kids, I've been married for 12 years, that changes the game a little bit, but it takes them a while to comprehend that. Like, really? And to overcome it, what I do is I try and dress the part. I try and wear the pointy shoes, the good skinny chinos, the slim fit button-up corporate shirt tucked in with the matching belts, do the hair well, try and look the part, you know what I'm saying? So that there is a sense of value that people put on you. And that's essentially what Bitcoin is all about. It's all about trade and value. Bitcoin is something that we have actually never seen in, I'd say, the last 500 years. Since people started trading using centralized banks, the Venice merchants started taking people's bonds, we started seeing a whole shift in the way people traded value. The very fact that you guys are here tonight is because you trust SA Crypto. You trust what we've built. You trust what we're about to say. You trust us so much that you've given up your Friday nights, you've given up your money to be here tonight, because you trust that you're going to get something of value. You have traded your money, your time, because you trust us. And Bitcoin's about trust. And that's why tonight I decided to wear what I'm comfortable in. A good t-shirt, actually this is a Fulham t-shirt. Because Fulham, for those that don't know, for the Liverpool and Real Madrid fans here, Fulham are playing in the richest football final tomorrow. There is a Villa fan in the crowd. But Fulham are playing, and I'm originally from England, interestingly, which is always part of my story, because I could move back to South Africa, move back to England tomorrow. Got a British passport, was born there, but I love this country, and I love the fact that having worked closely with Luno, was just with Marius last week. I know Eddie's not the biggest fan of Luno, but we'll see. We'll get him down to Cape Town. He can have a nice chat with Marius and work it out. The Bulls and the Bears can find that one out. And I love how the South African Reserve Bank and SARS are actually more open to cryptocurrency and crypto assets than we realize. We're obviously all in this because we're like, yeah, screw the banks, we're gonna drop these guys. But actually we have to realize, in order to take this forward, we need to work with the authorities. That's the reality. And so I love this country, and I still have my British heritage. My dad is here tonight, and he actually played for Fulham's second team. So I'm wearing something of who I am, right? It's comfortable, it looks decent. I love a good pair of jeans and a good pair of tackies. Because you know what? I didn't want to come and put on a front tonight. I just wanted to come and be me. I got my cool Captain America jersey that I put on when I'm cold and no one else is looking, because I just wanted to come and be me tonight. I didn't want to come and put on a front and try and say, hey, this is actually who I am. I look cool. I look the part. I look wealthy. You should trust me. You know what? I want to build your trust. Sure, first impressions last, but I want to build your trust. And that is the incredible thing about crypto assets and blockchain technology. The irony is, it was built on trust. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote a white paper which was because nobody trusted the banks and the centralization of our financial systems anymore. And yet, here we are, where the crypto markets are so full of distrust that Google, Facebook, and Twitter have banned adverts for crypto. And in essence, that brings me to what SA Crypto is all about. We are here to help provide credible crypto asset news and information. That's all it is for us. We want to provide credible information that you can trust. We might get it wrong. Eddie he said it himself, he gets 20% of his trades wrong, there or thereabouts. He used to get 40%, he's now up to 20% wrong. We may get it wrong, but we'll tell you when we get it wrong. but it's all about trust. And if you can't trust where you're getting your information from, then who can you trust? So, Bitcoin is all about trust, trade, and value. So, I'm a philosopher. I'm the guy who always asks why. I used to ask at school, why? Why do I have to wear a blazer in South Africa? Why? Why do I have to wear long pants in South Africa? Really? Why do I have to do science? I'm the kind of guy who, when I get the why, I go all in on it. I get behind it and I want to throw everything I am into making it happen. If I had seen the why of why I should have studied math and science, I would have. Even now, I can tell kids, why do we have to do math? Why do we have to? Because it's not about whether you're going to do X carries the Y to the power of Z when you get into the real world. It's about maths is actually designed to help you think. That's why they do math in school. So I'm the guy who asked why. And I started to ask the questions about our economic system. As I entered the real world, I'm a very entrepreneurial guy. I'm probably on my 6th business right now. And I always used to ask why. Why is there poverty? Why do these people just accept that they have nothing? Why have the elite done so well and the poor got nothing? Why? Why? And asking all these questions why led me to Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, which was in 2011. I was actually saying to Mark Forrest just the other day, we were looking at my Bitcoin wallet on Luno, how much Bitcoin's passed through it, and you're like, damn, if only I had help, man. I've been a member of, I've had a Luno wallet since they were BitX. Just got into this thing really early because I was asking why from the early days. When the 2008 financial markets crashed, it was just the peeling back of actually there's something very toxic with our system. You see, the Reformation and Renaissance showed the power of mass information. The Arab Spring showed the internet's abilities, but there was still something missing. And then the 2008 financial crisis happened, and the January 3rd, 2009 white paper came to the internet, written by Satoshi Nakamoto. What makes his white paper so special? And tonight, I'm going to give you a bit of a fundamental analysis of Bitcoin. If you listen to Eddie very carefully, he said it a few times, he only trades to make more Bitcoin. Now, he says he's not into fundamentals, but if he's not into fundamentals, why is that the only coin that he wants to trade? Because he believes in the technology and the coin. So we're going to have a look tonight now at the fundamentals of what I believe is one of the most revolutionary technologies that we have the privilege of seeing ever to hit civilization. Firstly, it contains revolutionary ideas about decentralized, peer-to-peer internet transactions with a deflationary currency on immutable open ledger. Most of you guys know this stuff, but I just want to pick on some of these points. The author remains anonymous. The author does not copyright the information and ideas proposed. Every single one of those 7 points go against the essence of modern society. Think about all 7 of those points. Every single one of them are the antithesis of our capitalistic society. Firstly, decentralization. I'm going to show you a graphic just now. The entire Bitcoin network is supported by over 9,400 different nodes. What's a node? We'll talk about it shortly. But the point is, there is no central authority. Roger Ver is very upset about that because he wanted to be the central voice, the central authority. There is no authority. There is no central point upon which decisions can be made. It has to be the network agreeing to move forward with those decisions. That is how democracy was meant to work. And yet we're sitting where the world superpower only has 2 parties for people to vote against. Something's not right with our system. It's peer-to-peer, directly. There is no third party involved. I can transact my Bitcoin with Sean without requiring any other third party interaction. I don't need to trust a bank. I just need to trust the system. My Bitcoin goes straight to Sean without having to worry about whether someone has to check it first. Thirdly, we know this is internet money. This is the one thing people couldn't solve. And that's why there has been such a focus on third-party applications. Elon Musk made his money through PayPal because we needed to trust that the electronic transaction of a couple of $100 from this account to that account really happened, and the $100 that came from that account actually went there, didn't stay there. And this guy got his $100 and this guy kept his $100. There had to be a third party in between. This is real internet money. For the first time, we've had Visa and MasterCard for the last 3 decades, but for the first time in internet history, which has been around since the 60s, we're able to truly trade with internet money. Fourthly, this is a deflationary currency. Every other currency that you have in your FNB Visa card, in your wallet right now, whether it's a US dollar, a South African rand, or God forbid a Zimbabwean dollar, is inflationary. Meaning that as time goes on, you can buy less with that $1 US. The difference with Bitcoin, it was designed geniusly to be deflationary. In other words, the buying power of that Bitcoin should actually increase over time. Purely because of the most basic economic rule that we all know, even primates knows. And that is supply and demand. It's that simple. How many people want it versus how many people have it. It's an immutable open ledger. For those of you that don't know, I know that we do have some newbies here tonight. We call you noobs. Welcome to the noob club. We've all been there. Firstly, let's talk about the open ledger. This is what caught my attention right at the beginning, because it was the 6 main banks on Wall Street that caused the whole crash, because no one could see what they were really doing on their ledger. Satoshi Nakamoto came along and he said, here's what we're going to do. This is what gives Bitcoin, by the way, its inherent value. The fact that its ledger is open, that anyone can verify every transaction from the beginning right up to the latest transaction of 0.002 Bitcoin that you receive from Luno tonight. You may say, wow, that's great. I'm pretty disappointed in my 0.002 Bitcoin that I got tonight. But trust me, after tonight, I believe you will hold, and it could be worth a lot of money one day. That 20 Rand could, if John McAfee's right, be worth about 20,000 Rand. That's quite a thought, but let me not get distracted from that. And exactly, I mean, let's be honest, that's why we're all here. Let's be honest, the crowds come because they're like, wait a second, if this is deflationary, it's going to go up in price. I want to talk about that because I don't want to be in my current situation. I need more. I need more money. How do I make my money work for me? Let me not get distracted. Anyway, the open ledger. The ledger was designed that anyone can see it. We can see where the money's going, where it's coming from. Eddie spoke about Tether. For those that don't know, I saw some people going, Tether, what is it? It's US, it's tethered to the US dollar. So it's meant to be 1:1, but it's being printed it's meant to be backed by the US dollar. For every US dollar tether that is distributed into Bitfinex, it's meant to be held and supported by a real US dollar on their books. But actually, they were playing some clever books, and we don't know for sure. So there were some question marks already around US dollar tether. And that's exactly what was happening on the Wall Street banks. People were distributing money and no one could actually see. Were they giving money out? Were they giving currency away backed by real collateral? And when you turn that system on its head, you say, actually, those 21 million bitcoins that will only ever be mined, we know where they are and where they've gone. There cannot be more than 21 million bitcoins. And then the second thing is that it's immutable. You can't change this ledger. This ledger gets synced across all 9,400 computer nodes, all verifying against each other to make sure that that block of information that has been processed does not change. It is done. There are no PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, and clever. Let me not pick on names. I think of who can I pick on. There are no clever playing with your books because the ledger cannot change. It's revolutionary. The author remains anonymous. This is one of the keys of what makes Bitcoin what it is. Think about it. If we knew who the author was, we'd want to worship him. His voice would mean the most. We would want to listen to what he says. When Vitalik Buterin makes a comment, everyone goes, oh, and it actually affects the price of Ethereum. For those that don't know, Vitalik Buterin is one of the founders of Ethereum. Now, he didn't want to be anonymous. That's okay. He's a focused developer. I'm not against Vitalik Buterin. But you have to look at the difference between Ethereum, which has a couple of people who have an authoritative voice on it, versus Bitcoin, where who is the authority on Bitcoin? Sure, there's Andreas Antonopoulos. There's a whole bunch of people that contribute to the conversation. But imagine if Satoshi Nakamoto was still around today. He went off the grid because he knew that his voice carried too much weight. And that weight would affect the very price of what is meant to be a simple, transactionary, personalized banking system. Bitcoin is a bank in your hand. It's not a wallet, it's not a card, it's a bank. What you have in Bitcoin on your wallet, and I hope you have your own wallets, please. I hope you have your own wallets. I love Luna, they're incredible. But even that Luna wallet, still, technically, you don't have the private keys to that wallet. You need your own wallets. Put your Bitcoin in that wallet. You need to stop there right now quickly. Ethereum ERC20 based tokens. We all know that MyEtherWallet is the incredible platform that a lot of people access the ERC Ethereum based tokens. They obviously had a bit of a split, and there's now the new one. But MyEtherWallet is still operating. If MyEtherWallet gets hacked, your ERC20 tokens don't get hacked. You need to understand that MyEtherWallet is not a wallet. It is a system, it is a protocol by which you can access your tokens and your wallet, right? So when it got hacked recently, all that happened was they were redirecting you to a fake platform that you thought was MyEtherWallet. You entered your private key, they now had your private key, which means they could access the real wallet and take your money out, take your ERC20 tokens out. It didn't get hacked. You got hacked, if anyone did hear. But the people that got hacked were the ones who didn't realize that they've been redirected. What happened in that hack, there may be some of you, and I've seen a couple of people, Eddie talking and saying things that people just take for granted. A lot of us guys have been in this for a while, we take for granted. There are some of you here who may be like, what hacked? What is MyEtherWallet? What's an ERC20 token? We only have a certain amount of time. But MyEtherWallet was recently compromised in that its DNS servers were rerouted. So when you logged in myetherwallet.com, you didn't get taken to myetherwallet.com. You got taken somewhere else, and it looked exactly like myetherwallet.com. You entered your private key to get your tokens. Hey, what's my balance today? Oh, look, it's 1,000 funfair. I'm really stoked with that. Wait, why is it 800? Why is it 500? Why is it 400? What the hell's happening? Actually, you were taken somewhere else. They got your private keys because you entered it right there and then. Your wallet did not get hacked. you got hacked. If you need to understand the difference between your private keys and having Bitcoin and other tokens on another wallet where you don't have access to truly what is the value of your private keys. So anyway, coming back from that sidetrack, the author of the white paper remains anonymous. This goes against, think about it. Think about society today. Someone who creates the greatest invention of our time. We want to know who did that. Who created this incredible piece of art? We must find him. Who wrote this song? And it's all about copyright, and I want to make money for the amount of effort I put into producing this incredible song. This is going to go down as one of the greats. It must be recognized by me. Think about this. I honestly believe Bitcoin is going to revolutionize society.
Yeah.
And he did not want to be known. That's mind-blowing. It's the very antithesis of the society we live in. We want to be known. Final point, the seventh one, he didn't copyright any of the information. Vitalik Buterin took that white paper, he took the basis of the code, and he built his own platform, which is the Ether network. Every other token has been created because Satoshi Nakamoto released an open source code. I am a believer in open source technology. I am a believer in Creative Commons. The greatest music in the world. Here's a quick one. How many of you know, just raise your hand, I'd love to know. How many of you know why a CD, a music CD, audio, not MP3, but wave audio CD is 74 minutes long? Does anyone know? That makes me look good. An audio CD is 74 minutes long because Philips and Sony, who were developing CD technology in the 80s, concluded that the greatest song of all time is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And in its entirety is exactly 74 minutes long. That music is not copyrighted. Copyright came about in the 15th century. In fact, sorry, I always get that one confused, the 1900s and the 20th century, so the 1500s would be the 16th century. In the 16th century, King Henry decided he was getting influenced by the printers. It was the printers who were printing music, who were making money off the music they were passing out to all the music schools, and they were putting pressure on King Henry, and he passed a decree that said that there is now copyright on these printed music. You can't just go and copy it. You need permission from the guy who wrote it the first time. And copyright was born. And now we try and protect. We live in a mindset which is protect what's mine. Protect what's mine. I made this, protect it. Satoshi flipped that whole system on his head. That is enough to go, this is serious. And another thing, there's 100 points I could continue with here, but for the first year, when he released the protocol, no one was mining. He was the only one mining. He's sitting with 1.6 million Bitcoin in his wallet, which, from my understanding, if last time I checked, he hasn't touched. Hasn't touched it. Is he going to dump it on the market? It doesn't matter if he dumps it on the market. It doesn't matter if Mt. Gox keeps dumping all their hacked Bitcoin on the market, because in 10 years' time, it's going to be such a drop in the ocean of a great demand that it really won't affect the price. Just because the price is $7,000 now really shouldn't worry you, because in 10 years' time, it's a whole different ballgame. Besides, from there, for a year, Satoshi kept mining. He kept mining each new block, each new block, each new block. Why? Because he believed in his technology. He had guys around, he had a team. I personally believe Satoshi Nakamoto was a team of people. I don't believe it was just one person, but I could be wrong. But he kept mining for a whole year. He didn't give up on his project because he knew there was something to this. Every single one of these 7 points here change the game for what modern society is based on. Let me just show you very quickly what the Bitcoin network looks like right now. That is the current Bitcoin network. Nodes have been set up around the world by people, by developers, by hobbyists who want to have the entire network on a computer at home, validating the network, supporting the network, right? So you get two different things. You get nodes, which is just a computer which validates the network, it supports it. And then you get a miner. A miner is building new blocks, right? The ledger is being created step by step, by block, by block, by block. And in each block, all the transactions are being validated by the nodes. And as the block gets created by the miners, what happens is they get rewarded for their work, for building that block. Then once that block has been completed, they move on to the next block, etc. These are nodes, these are not miners. Miners are building new blocks, nodes are supporting the network. And these are guys, you can set up a Bitcoin node at home to say, you know what, I am contributing to this network. You've got guys in George, you've got guys, look around the world, it's incredible. Down in Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Bolivia, there's countries there that I don't even know, there's islands off the tip of Africa. Where the hell is that? There's just north of Madagascar, is that the Seychelles? This is incredible. The middle of flipping Mongolia, what? People are believing in this technology. And they are, the amazing thing is every single one of those nodes, 140 gigs big, right now, every single one of them are exactly the same. Constantly validating every single transaction. Bitcoin is the standard, guys. There's currently over 190 exchanges. Of those, think about it, 95% use Bitcoin as their primary pair, with approximately 500 exchanges to come. Well, that's quite a big prediction, James. Think about it. There are currently about 194 countries in the world today. Every single one of them eventually will have to have a Bitcoin exchange to exchange your fiat, your local fiat currency, into Bitcoin. And then every single one of those exchanges needs competition. Luno needs Altcoin Trader. Luno needs its competition. We need competition. Bittrex needed Binance. Poloniex needed Bittrex. We need competition. Binance needs decentralized exchanges. So if there's only 190 exchanges right now, there's 194 countries, I honestly believe there's at least 500 more exchanges to come. Currently, 95% of all exchanges use Bitcoin as their primary pair. If this already isn't starting to make you think Bitcoin is the standard, there's no hope. Okay, sorry, I'm sounding like a real Bitcoin maximalist, and we are SA crypto. So anyway, I wanted to talk about why Bitcoin is really going to revolutionize everything. The data shows that approximately 20 million cryptocurrency users worldwide. Obviously, the market cap right now is $335 billion US. Conservative estimates put that at 200 million cryptocurrency users by the year 2024. That is only 4.4% of 4.5 billion internet users. 4.5% of all internet users in 2024 are going to be using crypto? Please. That is extremely conservative. So if the market cap is 335 billion right now, 20 million, imagine what it's going to be like at 200 million, which is conservative. Another thing to note, a lot of people ask me this, but James, you can just fork Bitcoin, man. You can make more currency. You can just make Bitcoin gold and some dude created Bitcoin God. You just create whatever you want. Just fork the damn thing. You got to remember that every node has to agree which is the Bitcoin chain and which is the fork chain, right? And the fork chain will always be known as that fork. It'll always be known as Bitcoin God. It'll always be known as Bitcoin Gold. It'll always be known as Bitcoin Cash. It'll always be known as the forked chain. It will not be the original Bitcoin. Bitcoin will always be Bitcoin. So, I've talked a lot about Bitcoin. A couple of people asked me, James, are you going to share a little bit about what else is worth talking about? Well, I thought, okay, I'm just going to throw in one slide, what is worth keeping on, what's in my portfolio right now. So just throwing this out there, obviously you want to keep your Bitcoin. That's what my talk is really about. That's what Eddie's spoken about. What else is worth talking about? I love Pinkcoin. Pinkcoin is one of my favorite projects besides Bitcoin. Currently it's an ERC20 token, but they didn't do an ICO. The moment a company doesn't do an ICO, I have respect for them. Because it's so easy to make money in crypto. These guys didn't do an ICO. And you should see the platform that their network is built on and how they have integrated their technology into Twitter, which is obviously where the crypto information comes from. I ran a campaign, I swam the mid-mile for the Chop Cows. I got 5,000 Pinkcoin from one tweet, which was $200 US. The guy literally just tweeted, tip James Preston ZA. That was it. He didn't put my wallet number, he didn't put my address, anything. He just did tweeted James Preston, give him 5,000 Pinkcoin. Done. I can now withdraw that at any time. It's secure. The network holds that James Preston ZA is owed that Bitcoin, and then I can withdraw it. Sure, if someone hacks my Twitter, that's my own fault. I need to withdraw it very soon. Anyway, why am I saying this? Someone could hack this right now.
I will.
My point is, what they are doing is incredible. I love Pinkcoin. Dragon Chain is a little pet project of mine. I love what Dragon Chain is doing. They want to build enterprise blockchain technology for big corporates. Put entire supply chains on the blockchain. And the interesting thing about this talk is I wanted to really just highlight why Bitcoin and not just blockchain is where it's at. Everyone's like, oh yeah, blockchain up, but blockchain, we'll get into that. But Dragon Chain, it's a really unfortunate name. I don't like the name at all. Dragon Mines, who knows? Dragon Mines and Dragon Mines. Anyway, but I'd like you to check out Dragon Mine. They're based in Seattle. Dragon Chain. They're based in Seattle. I think they're going places. Their focus on, at the moment, they're in America. Their focus on cooperating with the SEC. I respect that. Skycoin, I think, also have an incredible team. And then Funfair, also a little pet project of mine. I think what they're doing with the internet e-gaming space, the internet gambling space, they have a real use case. And I think the value of the coin versus what they're doing. Obviously, the first question about an ICO is what's the use case? What's the use of the token? What's it for? And for me, these four, there are many others. RCX, if you notice Eddie's things, one of his charts that he showed was RCX. I enjoy icons as well. But Neo, RCX, for me, they've had their day. They're doing so well. They're flying. Trade them short term to make more Bitcoin. These guys are small cap coins worth checking on. Anyway, Bitcoin's going to change everything. How much time do I have left? 4. Bitcoin will change everything. An article appeared in Forbes magazine last year saying it's 1994 in cryptocurrency. We are still trying to dial into Mwave with our 56K modems. That is where Bitcoin's at right now. We are trying. That's where we are in Bitcoin today. The real development that needs to happen is building layers on the network that will make this accessible to the everyday user. The person who doesn't even know how to use their iPhone, who doesn't even know how to unlock their phone, that's the person that needs the next level of development to make this accessible. We saw what Gutenberg's printing press did to governments. We saw what automobiles did to the horse trade. We saw what email did to snail mail. We saw what the internet did to the media industry. We haven't even begun to see what Bitcoin will do to society. Bitcoin will change everything. People love to say that blockchain is the real development of Bitcoin. Let me just remind you that blockchain was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto when he released the Bitcoin white paper. Without Bitcoin, you have no understanding of blockchain. And every blockchain developer will have to study the code of Bitcoin's network protocol before building anything. So don't come with your blockchain is not Bitcoin. Without Bitcoin, my friend, you have no blockchain. Therefore, I'm bullish. Thanks very much. Sean, thank you.
Right, thank you, James. I think that speech was an awesome introduction. There's a speaker I would really encourage you to go and Google. His name's Andreas Antonopoulos. And yeah, he does a phenomenal job, like James, on explaining Bitcoin's use cases. And just to touch on one thing briefly before I introduce the next speaker, many people think that the cool thing about the internet is that you can watch, funny videos of cats on your phone, and that's kind of cool, like cats. That's the one part of it. The thing about the internet that has revolutionized the world is that it's flattened global communications. It gives you as much power as CNN in reaching a global audience. Your little opinion, what you think, you can post it on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want to put it, and there can be positive or very serious negative ramifications. So that's what the internet has done. It's given everyone the same powerful voice. You can compete with massive corporates. What Bitcoin blockchain technology, distributed trust, seeks to do is to empower you in a global connectivity in a way of trading value. And if you think about it, really, currency is just it's just a language. It's just a way in which you exchange value. I want to buy something. The language I communicate in is currency. It's rands. In America, the currency I communicate in is dollars. Currency, principally, is just a way in which we communicate value. And what Bitcoin seeks to do is to take that away from central people who hold it, have control of it, and allow it to put into people, or the hands of the people who are using it. Our show of hands, should we have a quick 5-minute leg stretch and refreshment break? Yeah, right, let's do that. Can I ask you all to be back here as close to 20 past as possible, and then we'll carry on. Thank you. Oh, and sorry, one last thing to mention. Some bad news. So there are 2 cars that have been clamped, ZARM ZM and XTN Grey ZM. Those are your registrations. I'm not too sure where those vehicles are. Deborah? Where you left them? Yeah. Sorry, you will know.
I was going to tell her there's a spot test after the show. How many people This is, no, maybe not yet.
No, thanks. Hey.
Javon? Oh, the minimum, yeah.
With your and the beer is 100 times up. So I spoke to Elmer like 3 or 4 weeks ago. He did the so you're drinking well, no, so we're having residential beer. Automotive, Uriah, clients, finance, on the way home. So we can so much he was going to do the work for me. He was going to do the work for me. Sorry, what the game? Oh yeah, but this is a select process in getting it converted together. So it's a blockchain event, not a cryptocurrency or I don't think there's any. We signed
That's what I mentioned. Should be a second. Let me come
Anyway, so that's what he's at the CEO
Oh, right.
Are you actually using scroll down already? I'm not there. That's such a it's just too much to do. So, no, my limitations.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
So anyway, I said, get that signed. Actually started from something else, which that's how I got it.
Yeah, what about it? Joe? Definitely.
Yes. Chevin.
So Joe actually approached Albaraka back the week before the Albaraka conference in too, with a proposal around my cryptocurrency.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that's nice. I think there was a bit of confusion. He thought that maybe they'd come and outsource it to us, but ours would get vehicle finance.
I was looking for a generalised cryptocurrency. There's 1.6 billion Muslims out there. You've only got to get a very small percentage of that. No, I said it's great. Yeah, but they can't get involved directly because they're controlled from Singapore. They gave me people to contact. You speak to this person, this person. The reason I got my wife used to work for one of the shareholders. So she contacted me. Joe wants to. I know, I've met him. Joe would like to talk to you about, so I sent her some information. So, okay, I'll get an introduction for you and get you in there.
So he's dealing with Shabir. Not the Shabir.
Oh, yeah, different Shabir. Oh, that's confusing. As I said, my background is IT, software development. But I'm just too old to keep up. I tell you, I got into IT. 6 years. How are you?
Good to see you. What a shock to find out that you're one of the main runners in the space.
Yeah, we love it. We love it, yeah. It's just evolved unbelievably, eh? Just out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, it's been a long-term sort of thing. It's just evolving faster than we can keep track of.
When I heard about this and wanted to come, and then find that you're involved in it, then I tell Nathan. He says, what? You're involved in this.
No, it's insane. No, it's a beautiful space. Really enjoying it. Sure. How are you keeping?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Are you enjoying the talks?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I miss James. Shucks.
He's a good guy.
When he moved on, I was just so sad as far as church is concerned.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sure. Sorry.
No worries.
Live streaming it.
That whole conversation.
Oh, man.
That was good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Before this whole thing started.
Yeah, and in fact, we're supposed to start.
Yeah, bathroom, because I'm really bursting.
Oh, there you go.
How many viewers are there? Like 540.
We got up to 12.
I know, I think I might have been one of them. I was one of them. I was like,
Make me proud. Make me proud. They're still there.
Do they hear audio?
Yeah, they've got audio.
That's awkward.
I know.
Bitcoin.
Next week, they said they know they can do it. Oh no, this is what they told me. They don't know whether they're changing experience or whatever. Are you this is one of the questions which I always wanted to ask. Should I base it on Ethereum or should I? I'm very funny. The reason I read
Hello everybody. If you're outside, if you can hear me, we'd like to get going in the next minute or so, please.
Good luck with those.
Is this thing on?
Mine's longer, mine's about 6 pages.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
I'm like,
Yeah, we
What? Hey, look!
What's that thing you were telling me about, Gary?
It's good to see you, man. Can you come stand next to me, please? I feel a little nervous about you.
Why?
No time, you can say it. Yeah, it's tricky. The old boys club.
Alright, have we got any people still outside?
I don't think so. Shall I go check?
Panel interview after this.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that before or after the bikini party is happening at the warehouse? Before. Okay.
Is it?
Alright, no, I'm joking. You have 0 attendance at your panel. I'm not wearing a key. Sure. Got awkward quickly.
I was just thinking about the young one.
That was probably more awkward.
Take it off.
Well, no.
Right.
They're coming in now.
See what happens when you have Luca Mike.
Yeah. Well, they stuck one on my face. What am I supposed to do, okay? Okay.
We've got more prizes to give away as well. I think we need.
Give away now.
You want to win? Okay, we've got, what have we got? We've got a cool Bitcoin hat. A bit trash, Bitcoin. Okay.
Trash.
No, we should get a few Bitcoin Cash ones.
Hmm.
And then we've got another ledger. Who needs a ledger?
Everyone needs a ledger. Everybody.
Should make this more interesting.
You know how much I'm getting paid to do this? How much? Not a ledger. That's what I'm
Just so you know. We can make this more interesting than just a draw.
It would be extremely interesting for me to have that in my pocket, but that's fine. Do it.
You can. I've got one in my bag. I've used it once, but
change people's lives and not have a ledger. Joking, don't think that.
Did I start to look like something?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I know you do.
Cool. Okay, we've got the. All right, so let's get the show on the road. I am conscious of time. Luke is going to keep us entertained. Right, cool. Hey, we're going to do that. So I'd just like to make another mention of two more sponsors. We've got here Gerald from Techno Solutions. Gerald, in at the moment. He's outside. So Gerald is across here at the mining station. He's one of the guys, one of our mining experts on SA Crypto as well. Along with Kevin. So Luke.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Abram, what's happening? Nice to see you.
This is going to be the best talk of the day. Gerald's going to be outside. If you guys have got any questions, he's out there. He's able to set you guys up with rigs as well. Purchase if you're looking to do that. Debbie Montague.
She's in the back.
Where is she?
She's corralling people.
She's doing it. Well, I'll thank her when she comes back, otherwise we'll be a bit missed. Right, should we do this draw? You can do the...
I'm totally going to do the draw.
There you go.
Could I just pick another bowl though? Is that alright? No. Okay.
No, you can't read your name. Right, so this is the draw for the hats.
It is Chazelle Coffin Gray.
Hey!
Congratulations. Cool.
Right, cool.
And then the ledger.
And then the moments that everyone is here for, can we do the ledger? Or should we make it more interesting?
Yeah.
How would you make it more interesting?
I'm just thinking of that scene in Batman.
Okay.
Batman Begins, which is one with the Joker when he breaks the pool through and he throws in and he fights it out. Wouldn't go down.
Okay.
Teaming ball could be horrendous.
But fun.
But fun. If you're watching.
Sebastian Guetjana. Sebastian.
There you go.
Congratulations. Well done. There you go. Cool job.
Awesome. Sebastian, did you have your hand up? Did you actually want one? So, briefly to introduce Luke. Luke is one of those guys I've known for a long time as well. He got me into Lego. So, next time with that. If you want to know about anybody with an electric Lego problem, this is Luke. But
it's not a problem.
You. I think you've got less time than we planned.
Okay, cool. I'll make it quick. Okay, there you go. And then I'll do the rest of the presentation straight after. So, yeah, thanks, Sean. It's so great to be here. It really is a privilege to be in this community. And James, you're an absolute nutter. Where is he? He's a matter because he says, I haven't met you. I met you tonight.
Are you serious?
Talking about conference. Well, that was a mistake. But thanks very much. I really am grateful. I'm by no means an expert. I'll just put that out there. I'm very new in the community. But what I've really enjoyed is how many people I've made friends with and how many people I've connected with. Getting into this space and understanding and like, it's one of those things, you know, if you don't know what you don't know, you sit in that place of happy ignorance. And then when people start to open up the Pandora's box and you start to see the picture before you, you start to realize how little you know, right? So it's from happy ignorance to unhappy panic that you know really, or you know, it's more mind-blowing, right? Because there's things you didn't realize were a thing before. And in my case, it was power and heat and breakers. Do you know how easy it is to pop a breaker? Do you know how easy it is to pop a breaker on your sub-DB, your main DB, the DB that your power meter sits on, and the DB that sits across the road when Eskom has to come with a truck? 3 days later, right, and I've been scalping power from my neighbor and running a cable over my roof so that I can get connected again. What did you have in your house? Oh, I love toast. I've got a lot of toasters. That big one. So, it's an awkward conversation. But, yeah, so these are things that, we're like average Joes. Like, I'm an average Joe, and I just freaking work and pay bills and that sort of stuff and learn about things. But, here we all are, we're all from different backgrounds, trying to get somewhere, right? Trying to do something different and new. Some of us, James, who has seen the future of this vision of where it could be beyond just making a profit off a coin, and others are just keen to get into the space. That's all okay. All of it's fine. Get in, enjoy it. You guys are on the cusp of a revolution that we don't even understand yet. Like, it's way beyond modems and internet. It's way beyond horses and cars. This has revolutionized the way we exchange value with each other, right? Because it has. Are you kidding me? We can do it without going to anybody and asking them if it's okay. There's no, that is not there anymore. The problem of who will validate and authorize this thing that we want to exchange is gone. It has been solved. It's just that the rest of the world hasn't caught up yet. Okay, but you smart people have. You guys are awesome. Okay, so let's rock and roll. Okay, spend a lot of time on these slides. Shoot. No. Sorry. Is Cliff here? Yeah, Cliff is definitely here. Cliff is an upstanding member of our community. We like you, Cliff. Cliff is staying in my house tonight. There are no connotation attached to that whatsoever. That was too much information. Anyway, move on. Slides. Spent a lot of time. I do hope you enjoy them. Alright, let's begin. This is me, I'm a dad. Yep, that's correct. I have a sex trophy, he's 6 years old, and he's absolutely the light model. So this guy's like the super cutest lighty ever in the world. He asks me a ton of questions. I just stumble along, but the more he asks, the more I'm going to try and answer, and he's just a cute little kid. So I like Lambos. I'm not fussy about the colour, okay? So just say. But right now my Lambo is in the form of a collection of bricks, and it's got a few stiff wheels and so on. But yeah, I'm trying to live the dream, man. One goddamn rise at a time, okay? Some of you'll know what I'm talking about. Hey, brothers. Okay, so yeah, I'm just having fun in the space. I have some real money in, yeah, I sweat a few bullets, like at the end of every month, but it's a space I believe in. I really, really believe in, and all this, I'm doing it for that little guy at the top. So that little hassle will be appreciated. Okay, like you said. Anyway, let's move on. So what is the point? Why are we talking about mining? Why are we talking about all this stuff? Let's think about the crypto circle of life. Okay, what are the pieces of the crypto pie, and where do we play in when we talk about mining, and why does that even matter? So, this is very simplistic, but it's good to just zoom out and look at it. So what we're talking about here is basically the 4 parts of working through a value exchange platform. The very first one is we have some coins, right? We got some bucks. In my wallet, I'm like, $2. Then I'm going to spend it, okay? I'm like, come over here and then give you $2. You know what I'm saying? Not like that. Ooh, dodgy. This is in Thailand. So what's a lot cheaper there. So we'll spend some money, we'll do some exchanges, we'll do some transactions. And remember, spending is not necessarily money exchange, because money is also just another way to abstract an exchange of value. It's a very primitive way to do it. We could be exchanging assets, we could be exchanging books, we could be doing things that are tangible. Money is just one way to get there, right? So that's why we talk about it like that. And then we've got the verification step. We'll get to why that's important in a second. It did relate very strongly to what James was talking about with the shared transaction log, and why it's so important that is public, and why that's so earth-shatteringly critical to the survival of the system. And then we've also got the last stage, which is where we increase the coin supply. So there is a way for this supply to grow. It is a finite supply, so that means it's capped at a certain value. And then the chain goes round again, right? So once we get more coins in the system, we can, more people will have a propensity to spend. In other words, more guys will be like, here we go, ping pong balls and beer, like it's going to be awesome. And, yeah, I love ping pong, it's a great sport. Happens to go very well with beer. So let's move on. what's the point of validation or verification? Because that's where we're going to be working, right? That's the little space of the pile that we're going to be operating in. Validation and verification matters because we have a public ledger, because we have a public transaction log, because we don't have Bitcoin corporate company PTY Limited who has a teller at the front of the gate and you can go and ask her if she'll quickly validate that the money has transferred from one wallet to another. That doesn't exist, right? There's no such thing. That's the beauty of it. Design of it. It's a trustless consensus network. We all have to agree. All of us in the room. We have to agree exactly what the ledger looks like before we can accept the transaction as valid. That's step one. Okay, step two is that, so public ledger, that's step two. So let's jump 2 steps and go to the end. I'm glad I wrote that down. The last one is that we have no central control. There's an organization that owns this thing and will charge you a fee like Visa does or Standard Bank or... yes, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, what's your question?
The question that always raises a head for me is there's no central control, but what about those whales that have bought up all the Bitcoin?
Right.
Don't they now have control of that?
Yeah, okay, so the question is, while there's no central control, if you have a whale that's bought up a chunk of the supply, doesn't he have an influence on the network? And the answer is yes, he does. He does have an influence on the network. And the problem is because he can influence the price by pushing on the price propensity through big trades on the exchanges. So he can throw a bunch of money on the exchange, he can set it at a super low price, everybody gets a discount, and it tears the price apart. So yes, you're correct, that does happen. And to a certain degree, there are responses built into the network that will kick in when those kind of things happen, when there's a sudden burst, like sudden increase in supply. And that's a lot to do with how much or how many new coins will come out of blocks that are mined, so the difficulty will shoot up. And there'll be slow responses to those things, but yes, it is a problem. Yeah, absolutely. It's a closed system. It's a closed system with a finite money supply. That is absolutely going to be something that happens. And it's a young system. So you have, like James was saying earlier, Satoshi, who might have 1.6 million coins. Like if he just puts a fraction of that on the network, 10%, we're in big trouble. But again, it's just the network, you know. The network is the network. It's extremely volatile, but it's young. It's young, it's young, it's young. And that, there's no escaping the fact that it's resilient. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Sorry, can I just make a point?
Go ahead.
I mean, it's not in his best interest to sink the price. I mean, he's actually...
I'm not talking about sinking the price. I'm talking about, you know, like we see on the movies, the guy buys out all the other...
I'll tell you what. Let me jump in, sorry. Let me jump in. We'll take that to Q&A, because I think Eddie's probably better positioned to answer that, and he's a nice guy. So, you're a nice guy, Eddie. Yeah, I mean, I've heard things, but they're not true. Go away. Come on. Okay, anyway, so, Lambo is me. Pictures, we want us a Lambo. Okay, how are we going to get there? Any size Lambo will do. So, we first need to get some glasses, roll a fat blunt, and we need to observe the way that we mine up these coins, the way we participate in this system of validation. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, sorry, I just dumped the point there, but if we're going to be validating things, let's all get together and do it. The more people that are in this network validating transactions, validating the blockchain, helping to put the next block on the chain, right? Because it is a chain of blocks, means that we can process things faster, we can validate things faster, people will be able to do their purchase their groceries and get a response quicker, confirmations will be faster, that kind of thing. But what's the motivation for all you guys to buy up your hardware, sink your pension into these mining rigs, to like piss your wife off, to know, and do the fan noise and try and like, you know, roast breakers, that sort of stuff? What's the motivation to you? Well, it's a money reward, right? It's a coin reward. So there's some part of the system you guys believe in that will have a return, either through returns straight away as you get the coin, sell it and get the money, or through the future value of whatever currency that you're working on, like pink coin. Was it pink coin? So you could see something in that project, or anybody could see something in a project that you really, really like and believe in, and you mine that up and hold it because you believe in its future value. Okay, side note. But anyway, so we have a little ecosystem that we need to see how things participate. So on the left, you're the guy at the front. There is white smoke, but the white pen didn't come out very well. And on the left here, you've got the mining rig. That's the equipment that you buy. You've then got a wallet. So those two bottom green things there, those are yours. You have those. They're in your possession. Okay? So as you participate in the mining process, so you get your financial reward comes into your wallet. Okay, it's very simplistic, but it's just important to know how we're going to go one level deeper. The pool is what's responsible for helping us work together to mine up blocks and work our way through the transaction. And then the last little piece on the right-hand side is the coin network. The coin network is broadcasting new transactions, new blockheads. It's doing things like announcing a new block if one's been discovered, and then voting on whether this block or that block becomes the new head, or whether the one you found becomes an orphan, in which case you lose your reward. So it all participates in that network. Okay, let's move on. Where do I go? Okay, so from Lambos to GPU rigs, we're going to focus on GPU rigs. There are others, but I think for the purpose of this discussion, let's keep it to the one that's more commoditized. So if you look at the stack that makes up a GPU rig, the fancy stack with all the equipment you've got to buy, a couple things you need. First off, you need a regular chassis. You need a place to mount this thing, not your PC box. Not enough air will move through there, okay? The second one is your power supply. So, and you see I put two very important emphasis there. Like what I said with regular chassis is like, don't play. And then power supply also don't play, say like, do not play, okay? Don't play. Because power and rig, really, write that shit down. It's going to change it up, yeah. I'll tell you a story, I'll tell you a long story. I spent 2 months with Gerald. This man, besides being extremely good looking, is also a legend. Because he built this rib cage, and I get 10% for every sell, where it's just amazing. I spent 2 months building my own rig cages, right? Shells, chassis using T-slot. You guys ever use T-slots? Yep. It's freaking awesome. It's like Lego for poles, right? There was a certain appeal in it. So I put these things together, and I ordered fans, and I racked the whole thing up, and it was amazing, but they sucked. They absolutely sucked. So they didn't cool properly. They had the carbs were too dense, just the wrong chassis. So I wasn't a chassis guy. Like, I don't know how to build chassis. I think I do, but I don't, clearly. So what I should have done at that level was just gone friggin' buy one. And eventually Joe gave me one. I think he felt bad or sorry for me that I was being such a clown. And thank you, Joe, you changed my life. Okay? Going to a special place in my loins. So what we'll do here is say next level is minimum spec. So you're not doing a lot of work on the CPU or motherboard, okay? You're doing it all on the graphics cards. So that's very basic. Next level is you need to have some way of connecting the GPU, the graphics card, to your motherboard. You typically use a riser. A riser is just like an extension. It's actually the devil's spawn that was trampled on by a truck. Yeah, risers suck. So pay your good money for good ones, okay? Don't waste your money on cheapies. What's that? Sorry, someone said to me important. What was it? Okay. That's a bad idea. Yeah, just pay your good money, get the warranty. You know, like all the good suppliers sell them. So do that. Then the next thing you need is your GPUs. You've got a choice of AMD-based GPUs, or you've got NVIDIA GPUs. That's just the different chipsets that have different capabilities, different heat profiles, are able to mine different kinds of coins, different algorithms. So that choice depends on how much flexibility you want, what kinds of coins you want to do. Like, for example, the typical one is if you want to do Ethereum, you buy yourselves RX 580s, or RX Vegas, or you could even go 1080s with what's it, enlargement pull? Like, that's super exciting. So fun things to be had there, but the choice of GPU does have a lot to do with how much flipping and flopping do you want to do, as well as what kind of coins you want to mine. So it's a very involved discussion, but there are base recommendations that you can get from the likes of Gerald and many others. Yeah, shoot.
What's the most expensive part of that whole setup?
The GPUs. Absolutely. But okay, there's two things there. Thanks, that's a great question. He's asked, what's the most expensive part about the setup? Absolutely, number one is GPUs. You got to spend a lot of money to buy them. The second overlooked expense would be the power supply. Don't cheap out on the power supplies. Get good ones. Go and buy the EVGA 4 grand power supplies. Because, go ahead. Yeah, shoot, question.
You answered my question already.
Okay, thanks. That's amazing, right? The answer was what? Okay, right, carry on.
Are GPU rigs not becoming redundant with all the ASICs coming out?
Great question, great question. We talked a little bit about that at the end, so if you don't mind, I'll save it to the end. That's cool. Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on. So when you're looking at mining and how you want to mine, what you want to do, your approach to mining depends on what you're going to do with the output, okay? So the one way, the traditional way, is just mine, hodl, 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 keep it in your wallet, don't touch it, pay your expenses out of your bank account, you know, that kind of stuff. Cover your own expenses, mine, right? That is the more traditional approach to mining, and what you're saying with that approach, I believe in the future value of what I'm mining, okay? Second thing is that you may want to mine to cover costs that you have right now. So for example, if you borrowed money to buy a rig, say 100,000 Rand, and you want to pay it off as soon as possible, you want to get a short return on investment, you may want to just pay whatever profits you get, you will pump into that loan. Second thing, okay? Third one is that you may want to rate your capacity and your hash power, how strong your rig is and how much it can mine, to someone else, and they pay you a fee in Bitcoin. So classic example of this is NiceHash. And there's merit to all those approaches. Some are like, really the difference is how much you believe what you're going to mine will grow. Okay? So if you believe your stuff will grow, you don't want to sell your hash power out, you rather want to mine things that you think have great potential. Yeah, mining to sell, like I wouldn't do the other one, like mining to sell and trade. I think you're going to lose a lot on fees, and then you also sell the coin so early if you're doing like a new coin that you lose its future value. So you're selling a coin for maybe 1,000 satoshis, but what you're really doing is selling the coin at like 5,000 satoshis because you've lost out on the gain in the future of those coins, right? Shoot, go ahead.
Is there a return on investment time frame at the moment?
It varies. I mean, it kind of was like, dude, I'm not sure the number exactly, but I did see it like get much longer in like December, January, February when card prices went through the roof. And I see that card prices are kind of stabilizing now, so it varies, And it also depends on how you want to invest. Like, if you are looking to pay it off quickly, that figure is very important to you, and so too will be the choice of graphics card. Okay, cool, let's move on. Right, so just some cool pictures. What's the slide about? Kev ripped off graphics from the internet. And so this is just to show you a few of the things that I use. I'm not showing you GPUs, we all know what a GPU looks like. If you don't, it's just a big graphics card with a PCIe 16X slot. On the bottom left hand is a riser. You've got the little daughter board, these things are demons. You've got the power converter, also awful. And then you've got the USB cable. The signal between the motherboard and the riser is not a USB signal. Okay, don't be fooled. Don't try and buy like 100 Rand USB hub thinking you're going to drive 6 GPUs, because it's not. They just reuse the lines. Geez, I was going to say.
Wow.
That was almost a YouTube moment. So the other thing is buy the riser with the power connector that you need. Don't buy a riser and then convert the power and like. Okay, but let's all share our little dirty secrets, because nobody here is going to whip out their wallet and show you their mining rigs, okay? Because there are rat's nests of cables. Like, let's just lay it out there. You are going to end up with things you have to convert, but try if you can to do as little converting as possible. So you don't have like, failure points in your power delivery. So that's important. And then, last thing is, you guys know this typical mining board. This is an H1110 ASRock 12 GPU, I think. But basically on a mining motherboard, you've got this small little 1X PCIe slots where the daughter board fits into, and then you run a line up to your the actual 16X slot that your graphics card plugs into. Okay, cool. Right, so mining pools. Why do we need mining pools? What's the point? Well, why do I want to share my profits with other people? Why can't I just like freaking mine, take all the money, go to China and hit some ping pong? You know what I mean? Like, why? So the reason is because if you look at something like Bitcoin, it's been around a while, it's got a lot of attention on the network, there are a lot of people mining against it, and so the network has balanced it out to ensure that there's not, like the network has increased the difficulty, this happens automatically, and reduced the block size to counteract the effects of inflation. Okay? So they've reduced how many coins you get. They've increased how hard it is to find a new block, which means the impact to you is it's much more expensive, much more power hungry, takes longer, and really reduces the chances. Okay, so if you went to what's called solar mine on a big network, big established network like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, all those guys, you're just going to be there forever. You can do it. You can mine Bitcoin on an Arduino, 150 hashes a second. Check there. Like, it would take you 1 million years to find a block on an Arduino. Yeah, so it's pretty poor ROI. But the thing is, you can't do it on your own. So the way a mine pool works is that we all club together, we all bring our hash power, as big or small as it is, and we all mine together. Then the pool, using distribution algorithms, depending, there's different ones, will each give you shares. So it'll give you do this part, you do this part, you do this part. It will measure how quickly you submit those shares, and then work out what your ratio of the reward is should someone find a block. Okay? Here's how it works. We run to the mountain. We've all got pickaxes. First, we used to fight each other so that we could just mine ourselves and like bug everybody else. Then we realized that actually there's not that much gold in the ground. So we club together. We say, you know what? We're a team. We love each other. Give us, we've got hammers, t-shirts, and caps, and we ran together. We started hammering the mountain. Someone on the far end of the mountain finds a gold nugget, and what we know is that that gold nugget, even in a small little portion of it, is like enough to, give me a few beers or whatever the case is. Like there's reward in just a small little piece because it has so much value, and that's how mining works. What I also want you to see from that example of digging away in a hill is that it is still a game of chance. Okay, still a game of chance. You're not guaranteed to find a block. You're never guaranteed to find a block. What you are guaranteed is an even distribution of probability that blocks will be found. But it could happen like it does in casinos, where it clumps over, say, a particular pool or a particular dude or a lucky guy. Like people get lucky. Okay, it's a game of luck. Don't forget that. You don't deserve the block just because you mined it. Okay, freaking millennials. Okay, so now you want to take it to the next level. You're like, need some money, need more ping pong. Here we go. So what you're going to start running into as you scale up is more low-level, fundamental infrastructure problems that, like you, me, kind of guys, unless you work in the industry, probably have no idea about. I had no idea. I was like, sort this out with the Mekon. So, a couple of things I'm doing, thanks to Gerald, who's, as I said, very good looking, mostly knowledgeable, and great legs. So he said to me, extraction. Don't cool, take the air out. In other words, don't. No, forget it. I'm only going to go there. That joke will come to me afterwards. You want to hear that, okay? I'm not going to call it. So what you can't see on the right is a puff of silver smoke written in white pen that says extraction, okay? But basically what they're saying is take the heat away from the device. Doesn't matter if the heat coming in from a hot Durban day is 35 degrees, doesn't matter. It's not 60 degrees, and that's what you want, right? You want to take the heat away. Get the heat out as quickly as possible. So invest in a good extraction fan, invest in a closed environment, invest in things that will provide a smooth, single channel flow so that the air, which is the most efficient heat remover we have, will take the heat off the card and then get it out the door. That's what you want. Okay, so that's going out. Coming in, we got power, right? So domestic supply is like 60 amps. I would be very, very surprised if you don't blow breakers when you get to like 55 amps. The current draw. You guys know the analogy? You got a hose pipe. You probably all know this. I'm just going to do it for posterity. So you've got a hose pipe. Water flows through the hose pipe, right? The amount, what was it? It's I'm trying to think about current and voltage. So Brian, you might have thought about. But there's current and voltage. You can touch a 220 volt supply and not get shocked. Don't do this, no. But because it's not the current, it's not the how many volts it is, it's how much is coming through, right? So it's the volume of the current, it's the volume of the power coming through, and that's the issue. So anyway, 60 amps is your max domestic. You can get three-phase. It is possible. Talk to Eskom. It'll cost you a lot, but it is possible. And then you've got the other stuff that you really have to think about more long-term. Is insurance, like fire protection. Do you have smoke alarms? You got a lot of power inside a small room, especially if you're sticking it like in the shed or whatever. Yeah, you gotta think about those things. Man, freaking adults now. Come on. Bitcoin is not a clown show. Let's be honest. So when you're scaling up, you also start to invest in more specialized equipment. You may want to not have so many disparate parts because getting warranty replacements is difficult, you can't keep spares and so on, so you need to think about those things. Like when you invest to the next step, don't just take all your money and buy graphics cards. Think about things that are going to like help you use those graphics cards for longer, right? Because yeah, as you scale up, your failure rate is going to become a real thing. Your failure rate will be like 2, 3, 4%. When you're sitting with 6 cards, that doesn't really impact you much. When you're sitting with like 100, you're going to have failures every day, right? So think about those things, and I would even go and talk to like an infrastructure guy who runs a big network for a corporate, and just find out what his daily problems are. Like, does he get crappy cables? Like, does he always wish he had small Allen keys lying around? Like, whatever. Set yourselves up, invest in that. So the big ones, Ryzen's motherboards, they're interesting, but they need a lot more cooling attention. Power meters, which are pretty cool. This is just one example. There are tons of ways to measure power. The point is you should measure it, and you should be able to graph it and have it on a chart. The third thing is extraction. Extraction. Look, fans, if you guys haven't been in Springfield Park, have a ton of different fans that you can get, and they're reasonable. So I would definitely have a look. Okay, so this is just a rough back of the napkin investment of what it would cost you to get your first rig. And so I put a few things down there, basically 3 columns, what your platform stuff is, all base things, and then a choice of graphics cards in either AMD or NVIDIA. There's so many things that go into this, but if you're new to the space, 2 things I'd do. 1, I would just go to someone who's a pro and say, just give me a damn rig, okay? Pay your money, give me a rig. Don't just go with what he says, it's most likely going to be right. You can probably validate it with a few friends, but just go with what he suggests. The second thing I would do is look on Gumtree. This will probably mean if you're more familiar with like how to spot dodgy hardware and that sort of thing, go on Gumtree. Tons of rigs for sale on Gumtree. You'll pick up some really good deals. Guys just wanting to offload for a quick return of 30, 40K or whatever the case is. So you'll find some good deals the most, especially now with the price sort of dipping as it did. Yeah. What's that, Eddie? Pardon, Eddie? You want to talk? You had a whole 45 minutes, Eddie. Why now? Why me? I'm almost at the end. No, but we'll wait. It's cool. No, we're not going to wait. Come on. Q&A, man. Save it for Q&A. Right, so calculating profits. See, he's not a boss, they can't find me. Right, ways to calculate ROI. Question from the back earlier. ROI is just basically like how much money am I going to make, and if I work it out over, say, a 12-month period, how much did I make and how much do I still owe or need to spend for my expenses? What do I make? And if I pump everything into the equipment, how quickly will I be able to start to just get pure profit from the mining? This is a very subjective thing. I just went on to whattomine.com, plugged in the 6-card rig, and then just picked the Ethereum algorithm, and that's what came out. So it's very subjective. It's because you're not mining dollars, you're mining coins, and coins have a price on an exchange. Sometimes the exchange prices are they vary, so it is very subjective. So do more than going to what to mine and then mining that. Go do your homework, really, and look for the new coins. There's tons of them out there. Actually, I'll tell you about what I'm doing. It's called Snowgem. Really cool Equihash coins. It's got master nodes. The first Equihash coin to have master nodes. And it's a great project. The guys they're killing it. They're meeting all the deadlines. That's awesome. Okay, where are we going from here? Where's the future? Where's this taking us? Well, we've been talking about commodity mining, like stuff that you can go out and buy today. It's easy to get started in this. You just need some capital, and it's easy to get cracking on commodity mining or GPU mining. It's also very flexible because we can chop and change where we go. We also have ASICs in the space, and an ASIC is basically a purpose-built piece of hardware that does one job, right? Do you guys remember the D3s? They are awesome doorstops, amazing doorstops, right? So there's the ASIC are so custom built that they'll only mine one algorithm, and when that algorithm changes in a fundamental way, like we're seeing with Equihash, and we saw with Kryptonite, I think. Dude, then those things are paperweights because they can't be reprogrammed. Okay, they're not They'll not be programmable. Okay, if you imagine a program, someone writes a program, and then we have a chip, like an Intel chip, that will interpret all the instructions that are given to it. And the cool thing is that set of instructions on the CPU are like, there's a great set. Like, we can do lots of cool things with this. We can tell it to do all sorts of cool stuff. And that's how we get away with always writing new programs and never having to buy a new computer. But an ASIC is that program burnt onto the silicon. The freaking lines are run. That thing is in. You cannot change it, okay? So that's why I'm a little scared of that guy. He makes me a little nervous, but not that nervous, okay? For a short while, yes, and then my heart settles down and I'm okay. So, FPGAs, okay? This is the one. This is the one, Mr. Cliff, because these guys are reprogrammable and they're super efficient. Well, they're getting there. They're just really, really expensive. Once we can move to FPGA mining, no point in buying graphics cards. Absolutely no point, because the beauty of a graphics card is that it is a generic computing device that's got lots of little cores. By that I mean it's got lots of small little processors that can do a small job at the same time as everything else, right? So, and that's powerful because you're like, go and calculate these things, bam! And then you sit back and they come back to you. But there's like 100 of them, or on bigger cards, thousands of them that all work at the same time. So much parallelism is the way that it works, right? With an FPGA, you get to program the silicon, so you do what you can do on an ASIC, but you get to upgrade it if something goes wrong, or fix a bug, or improve something. So those are the ones to watch out for. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I think that's going to be a big one. So would I get into GPU mining now? Hell, absolutely yes, I would. Absolutely, the prices are good. You can find cheap rigs. There's lots of stuff to mine. And everyone's like on this sort of like complacent sort of edge. You should mine. Hodl. The shit is just going to go to the moon, okay? And you'll be like rocking Lambos to Thailand, okay? So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. I really do. You're the coolest community. I've literally only been in this community since December, but I've met so many cool people, and also Gerald, right? He's nice. But I've met so many people, I've learned so much. I've realized like what a dumbass I was for so long, because like you really just don't know what you don't know, right? But the growth has been great. No one's been judgmental. So I encourage you guys, if you want to get involved, get involved. Communities are there. People are super helpful. We're all trying to help each other make it. And it's a great space to be in. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for inviting me. I'm so flipping excited to be here. And thanks for letting me be a part of this. And just go to mine, okay? Like just mine.
That's probably the best presentation I've ever seen. Sorry. No, that was brilliant. I think those pictures have set the standards for our presentation. Going forward. Luke, do you still know you need it? We're going to do the Q&A now. You need to put your thing. Okay, cool. Thanks everyone. I know we are running a little bit over, but we'd like to keep up the Q&A. But before we do that, Debbie? Yeah? Oh, there she is, sorry. So Debbie has been instrumental in making tonight happen from ETC Events. Just a huge thank you to you. I mean, this event, putting it on is not just, it's not something that just happens, so a big thank you to you. She does corporate events, any other sort of functions that we do. Have you got cards on you? Okay, fantastic. If you're looking for any of your events to be coordinated, please come and give her a shout. She'll be somewhere here in the front. And then Luno, of course. I think we're all very familiar with Luno. So big thank you to them. They've obviously been instrumental in sponsoring this event. They've also given everybody 0.002 Bitcoin, I believe. So those will hopefully buy us Lambos in 5 years. I have no idea, actually. No, but a big thank you to Luno. They're instrumental in this space. We've been down to visit them a few times. We've met with the guys. They run a very professional, slick organisation. They are aligned very closely to the SARB and to SARS, etc., as James mentioned, which is great. I mean, they're bringing credibility to the space on our behalf, which is fantastic. So having them partner and sponsor these events is just amazing. So we look to strengthen that relationship with them. which is very exciting. And then obviously any new developments that happen in the SA Crypto space with SA Crypto and Luno, we'll be sure to share with you guys. But enough about that. Should we move on to the Q&A?
Yeah, if everyone's keen, it's a bit late. Are we all okay with some Q&A?
We'll shall we do 10 minutes? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah. If people want to go,
should we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it.
I'll cut you off. How's about that?
You just do that.
I'll do this. Okay.
Perfect.
Celestine. Okay. Guys, cool. Thank you. So firstly, before we kick this off, thanks for sticking it out. We are very late. My apologies. We wanted to honor that. It was so hard. How do you fit 3 talks into one Friday night? Hats off to
Shame,
you
guys, move up so Luke can have his little seat too.
I'll try and move. I think Luke took up enough space tonight.
Hey!
I can move forward like that. So I'm just going to introduce the team, or I probably just stand. But so let me introduce Mark Forrest is my partner in crime at SA Crypto. He's sort of the COO. He is just amazing. He just helps with the operational stuff, the web design that we're building. So what we're doing at SA Crypto, just quickly, if you haven't seen our crowdfunding project and vision cast, we're building South Africa's leading provider of credible crypto asset news and information. That's what we want to build. Many of you would have seen coininsider.com. If they're live streaming right now, hats off to you guys. We love you. But we want to build what they have built. We had the vision before it appeared. We were like, oh, damn, someone got there first. And we want to build the same thing, but community-based. That's what we want to build. We believe we can build it. And Mark is instrumental in that. Then Nick Allen is the CEO of Avancor. He is an electronic engineer, originally from a company called PFK. And trust me, he's not the kind of guy to leave his job to start a blockchain R&D company. You got to understand fundamentals. For that guy to leave his job to start that kind of company, this space is going places. He's just a freak of nature when it comes to his mind and how he just comes up with ideas and he drives his team. It's remarkable. So we are really privileged. I just want to say, Nick, we're really privileged to have the support of Avancor. What Avancor are building will blow your mind. And if you are in the circle, which is open to anyone, of SA Crypto, just wait and see. So the pressure's on now, Nick. All right. You all know Sean. He's the founder of SA Crypto. You all know Eddie. He is the founder of trading. By the way, Eddie, can we get a date, like right here, right now? First question. Date, Saturday morning, when works? We'll find a venue, Saturday morning. Technical analysis session. Morning. 8 to 1. Hey?
Where's the price
So, okay. Well, so we'll set up a date then. Anytime you want, then we're holding you to that, Eddie. All right. And you all know Luke. I think that's the last time we'll ever have Luke talk. Kidding, that was amazing, dude. Okay, so Celestine is going to be around the microphone. Who's first question? Anyone? First question. First question. If you don't have, there you go, right here.
Hi there, guys. I would just like to know each of your predictions of the price at the end of the year. No, we don't have to eat anything. And then also, for Nick, I would just like to know a little bit about what you guys are researching and developing. Like, what type of sectors are you going into or focusing on and are interested in?
Sure. Okay, who wants to start with the Bitcoin price? I'm going to just go through.
Shoot.
Is it on though?
It's on,
Don't touch it, I'm not touching. Is it on? Okay. Not long before I was going to get the mic back, okay? You know this. Okay, so price. So I'm a total trading noob. I would love to go on Eddie's course. I don't really know, but whenever I look at something like that, I always think of the utility of the coin. Like, is this thing useful? Would I use it? Would I go and buy like a slick pack with this thing? And if I would, and if it's an easy purchase experience, then yes, I'm bullish about the price. I don't know where it'll go, but I'm just bullish about it. How many? Sorry?
Just the number.
Dude, more than what it is now. I'm gonna hold myself there, okay?
Yeah, I think something I don't like to do is give
A Sunday price.
long-term pricing is not something that I generally put out there purely because things can happen. We can see the issues and regulation last year with China, with tank, I think in September. So I don't know. That's the simple answer. I do know one thing is that I will collect as much Bitcoin as I can because there is going to be a time where the market will rally and it will become bullish. Whether that's in the advent of regulation, whether it is more trust or more momentum driven by the bulls or by the market itself, the faster that it becomes adopted. So, I'd hate to, I don't know. I really don't know what the price will be at the end of the year. If you ask me where it's going to, I can give you that. You probably won't want to hear it. I think the price has to go down. We didn't talk about it. When you start talking about complex technical analysis, you need to think, there's what we call hyperwaves. Now go Google it, go learn a little bit, and there's 7 waves in that. And the question is that we don't know as technical traders is, are we in wave 1 or 2, or are we in wave 7? If it's wave 7, we're in the dwang. We're going down, and we're going seriously down. If we're in 1 or 2, we're okay. We're going to go back up. So, looking at the chart itself, I'll just what I'd say the price is going to be. If we don't hold on the support line, that's currently at 7.4 now. That's quite and the volume isn't there. The market bulls aren't there. It doesn't look good. That's just the signs just aren't there for me to say, yes, we're going to have an awesome bounce, we're going to hit 10, we're going to go 12, we're going back to where we were in December. I just don't see that happening. If we don't hold at the current price, we're looking at 6.5, 6, 5.5 type supports, and then if it doesn't hold around that 5 area, we could see as low as 3. But that's not the end of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been in these situations many times. It's had many scenarios. That's why, I believe what James is saying, I believe what Luke's saying. It's so resilient. And so don't worry about the price. The time to buy Bitcoin was yesterday. So don't get fixated on the price. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. The price is going to go up. If you've got the emotional strength, hold on to those boys, hold on to those puppies, try and get some more. Don't worry about the price. If you're a trader, you want to trade the short-term gains and what have you. But personally, don't worry about the price. Don't worry about the price. That's my answer. So where it's going, I don't know. I know it's going up. When? I can't tell you that.
Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, I'm not going to give an answer that's going to top that. I think we've been a bit spoiled in the last 12 months or so because there has been an element of a self-fulfilling prophecy that's happened where Luke said it earlier, it's a young network, it's largely in its infancy, not from a technology standpoint, but from players in the space. And what you have happening is one or two people making an announcement or price prediction, and it generally comes true. So you would have seen, guys saying Bitcoin's going to go to 10,000, and then it goes to 10,000, and then you've got a Charlie Shrem or John McAfee making these. If you haven't, go just Google John McAfee's price prediction. It's a good laugh, and what he will do if it doesn't reach $100,000 a Bitcoin. I kind of hope it doesn't because I'm interested.
A million.
Or millions. So I think, I think, I don't know what he was on when he said that, but yeah, to guess the number is going to get more and more difficult, and I think that's a good thing because Bitcoin is a mechanism of trade. Its value is in that, and if you look what it could mean for the future of the internet of money is it's a medium of exchange and value. And what happens if you need to buy a bottle of water, and the only way in which you can exchange value for that bottle of water is with Bitcoin? Simple example. It then speaks to what Eddie's saying, is it doesn't matter how much it costs you now, because the use case of the value of it in the future will surpass whatever you're paying for it now. So it's not the answer people want to hear, but it's fundamental sort of view. But I mean, if you hang around and you follow the Twitter feeds and all the rest of it, you'll be able to follow what the guys in the space are saying. I mean, Charlie Shrem put out something the other day saying this will be the last time you ever see Bitcoin at under $10,000. He's a big player in the space. It might happen, it might not. But I think what's happening is when guys used to say that 12 months ago, things would move in those price movements. It's not so much anymore. There's more people in the market. So I think their power, the whale power, is becoming a little bit more diluted.
Before we get to Nick, because you can wrap up the price question with your question, and before we go to Mark, because I have the microphone just quickly, I made a tweet in February that at the end of the year we'll see Bitcoin at $35,000 US. It's not February anymore. So what would I say now? Let's put it this way, I'm nervous by that prediction, but we'll definitely hit $35,000. Personally, I think we'll see it within a year. Within the next 12 months, we will see $35,000 surpassed, but I'm not offering financial advice, that's my personal opinion. Really, it could stay at $3,000 for the next 2 years, but eventually it's going to go way beyond that. So that's me, Mark, before Nick.
Cool. I'm probably not going to go as in depth as these guys because I might feel, I think, like Sean said earlier, 2017 was the celebration year of Bitcoin and crypto. Everybody was excited and everybody got involved and it was all fun and games. And then January, February, we just see this thing collapse and people start getting scared. So I think it's difficult to, again, like these guys are saying, it's difficult to judge on a specific price. I think hopefully by the end of the year we should see $10,000 again. 2018 has been a pretty stable year. If you look, say, from February, if we look at where we are now, we haven't moved up, and there's been some runs and there's been some downs. But I don't know. If you're looking for a price, I'm gonna say we'll probably stick. I don't think it's going to go over 10,000 by the end of the year. That's just my opinion. You can go.
So thanks for that introduction, Jamie. I just wish you gave me a heads up before I wore my pointy shoes and skinny jeans and that pink top. Anyway, so yes, onto your question around what we're working on.
Notice how he avoided the price question.
Such a sterling job, I wouldn't even try compete. So just to give you some insight into 3 things we're working on. The first is sort of a big data crypto assets engine. So we've got a number of servers that are monitored closely by Mr. Sean here, gathering data from across all the crypto exchanges, monitoring prices, liquidity, volume, volatility, and we plan on this engine being the gateway between the current financial market and this new crypto asset realm. There's an entire universe that's growing like the Matrix in parallel with everything else that's going on right now. There's a standard financial system and this parallel financial system. And what I like to think of is, in my wallet I have, I don't know right now, but like dollars, euros, yen, rands. Those are geographically bound. But this new crypto asset space, you actually have crypto assets that serve different use cases. So you could have a Litecoin for buying coffee, or your Bitcoin, which is synonymous with a storage of value, or Monero if you want to do something dodgy on the weekend. You know, I don't know. Not happy with you. Let's go. So that first project is sort of, it's not really a blockchain project. It's a sort of standard development project, but the intention is to build this window to bridge the gap between the current universe and this new universe. Another two projects we're working on are blockchain development projects. Jeff, our CTO, is sitting here. Actually, he was good.
Just going back from the Ethereum conference, by the way, so if you want to tap into some of what he's learned.
With Vitalik Buterin in there, some very interesting dev players. So yeah, two projects. One for a customer in Australia. Plainly, they do microinsurance. So it's smart contract based on Ethereum, and you basically, before you take your flight, you say, I'm going to take this flight, you pay a deposit or whatever it is, and then it taps onto flight status, which is like a data oracle. And if your flight is delayed, it'll pay you out. So the blockchain revolution is around disintermediating industries. So removing the requirement for that third party verifier. It's a trustless system. So it's a microinsurance based on blockchain. Perfect use case for blockchain. And just another one that we work on or involved on, we're actually advisors, is a KYC solution in Mauritius called IME. They are similar to Civic. Vinnie Lingham, absolute star here, South African, started Civic for secure identity. And IME are turning that slightly on its head. They are securing your identity in a fragmented manner. So you have your wallet, your identity, but you upload your documentation and it fragments it. And it passes that information out to sort of the mining ecosystem for IME, and your identity is actually verified by consensus. So there's no risk of a single point of failure where someone can steal your identity. And that's going to be a biggie going forward. You know, with these exchanges, I don't know how many of you guys have sent out how many copies of your passport and proof of ID and proof of address. So that's going to end up in a bad time soon. So we need better solutions to the identity problem.
Awesome. So, so we're running out of time. I think we'll take two more questions, and then what we'll do is just whoever wants to answer just puts their hand up rather than the whole panel. So, next question. Anyone else? Let's just see who has a question. Let's see who has a question. Okay, so we've got four. Yeah, I'm just having a look. Okay, so we've got 4 or 5. Ooh, we're going to have to do like a voting system here, man. All right, so this gentleman here had his hand up first. We might have to do 3 questions. We'll see. If you need to go, you need to go, guys. All right, you've got the microphone. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Just that whole thing about the decentralized idea with the whales coming into the whole arena, buying up all the bitcoins, and then ultimately having the say on how they work and how they vote. And then also the whole regulation thing. I thought everyone was so excited about this because it was deregulated. And now everyone's getting excited because it is regulated. So where do you guys stand on that?
2 questions there.
2 questions.
Eddie, you want to answer the question on whales?
I'll take the one on regulation.
Cool.
Sure. Wales. Stop. Stop selling to them. It's that simple.
I mean, I'm happy to answer it. Sorry, I already interrupted you. So we've got to just differentiate between whales, who are going to be individuals that own a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, and the guys that are running the nodes. They're not necessarily the same thing. I mean, they're kind of on Jihan Wu and Bitmain and co. But a whale is someone who holds a hell of a lot of Bitcoin. So, and that does not necessarily mean he can manipulate the network, because he's not running a large enough mining pool to actually change the outcome of a transaction being verified. But in the case of a whale actually trying to drop the price, it would be on a particular exchange or number of exchanges, and that's where I jumped to by saying it's not in his best interest to try and manipulate the price, because he's a holder of that crypto asset, Bitcoin. In the case of a 51% attack, because that comes up often with crypto assets is, what is it, there's a 51% and 51% of the network is controlled by a single player. It's also not necessarily in their interest to mess up the network, because they probably are holding a hell of a lot of mining infrastructure to get access to 51% of the network. That's a huge amount. You saw Luke's numbers there, big numbers. So it's kind of interesting that there's no, why would someone want to destroy the system? It would be a government, I guess, who wants to ruin its credibility. But again, the amount of money they have to spend from being a non-player to being a big enough player to then ruin the network doesn't make sense. And if you're already a big enough player to have the mining power, you're benefiting from mining to make the buck. So it's a very interesting sort of thing. So the problem is real, but I don't think anyone would actually go ahead and action it, because it doesn't make sense. It's not in the best interest of the entire network. So that'll be my short answer.
So just to do a question on regulation. So yeah, it's true. Cryptocurrencies have been for a long time a way to hide money away and a way to hide value exchanges between people. But the truth of the matter is that we need to have legitimacy in the space. Not only to have it be a legitimate space where institutional investors bound by certain codes of what they're allowed to invest and what they're not allowed to invest in can now, so that gives them a way to participate in the space, bring all that money with them and all that growth. But at the same time, it also allows the government or the treasury to start taking funds out of those transactions and using them to bolster the space, right? Remember, we're in an unregulated freaking cowboy war zone. Like, there's no regulation anywhere, really. Well, it's coming, but why not? It is a space you want more like mom and pop kind of institutional mom and pop investors to come along with, and for them to be safe to do so. So until we have the regulation in place that will give a solid legal framework defining how these things should take place, I don't think we're going to really see the growth we're talking about, as we said, to 35,000, that sort of thing. We need it, and it's coming. It has to come. Like, we've been very lucky that it's taken this long, but we need to embrace it, and what Luno is doing, I think, is extremely respectable, because they're helping SARS to understand what crypto means and how it links in with our economy. That's great. Like, I want more of that, so that we can be more legitimate, and I can get my salary paid in Bitcoin. You don't need that kind of stuff. So.
Cool. Just going back to that whale question, don't worry too much about the whales. I think that's what we're saying there. If you're a trader, work with the whales. Learn to read what whales are doing, and that's why there's an order book. So every exchange that you see, even on Luno, there's an order book, because that's where you go and you see the price and where you're going to set your buy and sell. And you can see the whales actually operating, because they keep the price in a range. So if they want to accumulate a certain amount of stock, they will set quite a big buy and sell order to keep the price in that range. So you'll see the price moves in that range all the time. And when they're ready, they will lift those sell or buy orders, depending if they're shorting or they're going long on the price. So look for those things in the order book, where you can see there's quite a big sell and there's quite a large buy, and you'll see the price moving in that range, because there's not enough to sell, there's not enough to buy on that particular order book. So when you see them doing that, accumulate with them, because we all will fish in there, but it doesn't mean that we can't feed. That's why pilot fish are so good. They swim on the backs of sharks and they pick up what the shark needs behind. That's us. We also feeding on the scrap. So turn those things to your advantage. Don't see them as negatives. So with that type of behavior, there's positives in there. There's gains in there. There's opportunities. So see whales as opportunities, not as threats. That's basically what I would recommend.
Good. Next one. Let's go with the gentleman at the back there. There we go. This gentleman here. Put your hand up. That guy right there. There we go. Thank you, Celestine.
So hi guys, awesome event first of all. So mine's a bit more of an infrastructure question. So if memory serves me correct, we've got about 20 million people at the moment who make up the entire market capitalization of cryptocurrency. So we expect that to grow to 200 million by 2020 at 10x growth. But with the scalability issues that Bitcoin and Ethereum particularly have at the moment, I think Bitcoin's under 10 transactions per second, and Visa sitting at about 1,500. How are you going to address, or how do you think the network's going to address those? I mean, do you think things like the Lightning Network is a viable solution to scalability issues, or Casper, or do you think that's going to be a problem and people will migrate to other coins like Litecoin? I mean, you guys, I'm sure you've seen the $99 million transaction. It took 2.5 seconds and 40 cents transaction fee. So obviously, comparing it to, it's a much better peer-to-peer payment network. So why wouldn't people migrate over?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So you're scratching your face.
He's just a nice looking guy.
That is a great question. I think Nick touched on it earlier, and as the space develops, Bitcoin is obviously the forerunner to everything, really. I mean, everything's been built, shaped, changed, and morphed off that. And it comes with its inherent constraints that you know and you've spoken about. And I think that as more currencies, more meaningful currencies, ones with actual proper utility start to become adopted, you're going to find coins with different use cases being used. So Monero, for example, for its privacy, might not need to execute within 3 seconds. You know, whereas a Litecoin, like you mentioned on Nick earlier on, you know, you're going to have other applications of coins that are going to be far more transactional and far more quicker. You know, I'm very reluctant to buy a cup of coffee with even 0.0001 of a Bitcoin because, as a joke, in a year I could buy a coffee farm. You know, be a great problem to have. But so sure, I think different coins you're starting to see a little bit more maturity happen. So my personal view on it doesn't mean it's right. I do in some parts see Bitcoin as some kind of a store of value, but I say that cautiously because I mean we've seen wild swings in the price, and that's fine. You know, it's a new and a young market. But because it's the one currency that Eddie touched on earlier, everything hinges. It's the one he trades into. It's the one that we all want to accumulate. It starts to become that one reference point. And will we see cryptocurrencies in the future that are linked potentially to $1 or rand? Sure, we might. And we might use those as transactional tools. I think there are 7,000 odd currencies in the world at the moment. You know, much like the dot-com boom that we had in the early 2000s, you know, there were the likes of Amazon, etc. that also took heavy pains back then, but they survived. In the same way, in 10 years' time, we might only have 10 currencies existing, and Lightning Networks, Casper, I mean, Jeff was over at EdCon and has come back. If anybody wants to understand a little bit more on Casper, Jeff, I'll throw you under the bus there. That's the man over there. Jeff is incredibly well versed in that, so he'll be able to answer questions far better than I can. But certainly, see 7,000 today. If you see more than 20 or 30 of those surviving in 10 years' time, I'd be very surprised.
Just to add on, you know, I think I'm older than some people, yeah. But you know, I was in the age of the checkbook. Who would have thought that?
What's a checkbook?
What's a checkbook? Yeah, but exactly. I really.
Wow.
But you know, when the credit card came out and hit the market, you know, Visa and MasterCard weren't doing that transaction volume. You know, technology, we can't live in the now. I think that's my point. You know, living in the now is probably a mistake. Technology will advance. There's really clever people working on these blockchains and investing huge money. Big powers are investing in the blockchain. So I'm very confident technology will solve today's problems in the future. Just like no one thought that they would ever put their credit card out there and transact on it when checkbook was around. Oh no. I remember those days. I was one of those people. So yeah, it's a great question, but hopefully, and I'm quite confident that technology will solve those, and Bitcoin and the strength of Bitcoin. You know, I don't want to. If you also trade and you're looking at some fundamentals, guys, learn about GitHub. Okay, GitHub is a place, and it's all transparent. So GitHub is where developers in the blockchain world and Bitcoin and Bcash and all these currencies upload their code because it's shared. It's code. It's a shared community of code. And you can see how much code Bitcoin developers are and how much they're committing to those branches compared to all the other guys. So if you're talking about technology, you're talking about development of a blockchain, there's no other blockchain or no other technology that has greater investment. And you just have to look at the committals on GitHub. And I advise you just on that, if you're investing in RCO, which you need to be very careful about RCOs, and that's probably why the price is not as great as it is as it was, because RCOs are getting caught up, the scams are coming, and they're getting the SECs all over them. It's a real thing. But have a look before you invest in RCO. Go look how much they're committing. What is their development? How many developers do they have? Because they have the developers' names and everything there. So how many development does something that raised $40 million has got 2 developers? What do you think is going on there, guys? You need to research. You need to look deeper before you make your investments. But just back on the tech one, yeah, I'm not too stressed about the tech. These things have a way of working themselves out.
Just before Nick answers with just a relevance example, if you think back, totally legitimate, if you ever downloaded the MP3 on a 33.6K, Duxbury modem, I was going to say without GetRoute. I mean, that was a hour and 10-minute ordeal, and if that thing died in 55 minutes, I mean, there were curse words, the likes of it. So that was a problem there. But now you get home, you flop down on the couch, you turn on your streaming 1080p Netflix, and there's no conscious awareness of how we got from there to here. So, yeah, problems will figure themselves out. But those are for some very bright guys to solve.
One more thing on that, sorry. There's one more thing on that, sorry. The last thing is just that credit card transactions used to be done with that little swipey machine. You remember that? Clunk, clunk, and then it took an imprint of the pressed plastic in the card. There was no magnetic nothing, okay? Then the nice lady would gather those things together, capture them into the system, batch that up, probably on a tape. So I guess it would have been consolidated somewhere in a distribution center onto a tape. Those tapes would be processed on mainframe, and the amounts would be deducted off of the account. That's how credit card transactions like. Now we get upset if it times out when we're in overseas buying something with our Visa. Thailand. Where they don't take credit cards.
Buying ping pong.
You just don't want Okay, so but the point is that it evolves and it doesn't happen overnight and in massive chunks. It is small steps. So the issues that you're raising are good ones that are relevant. People are aware of them and they're annoying. And those are all the factors that you need to bring in the evolution of the network to make it not the problem. So when we have this conversation next year, you're going to come with a list of other things because you're like that, and you're going to come and moan about other problems on the network and ignoring all the cool stuff that's before, right? That's good. That's evolution. We like moaning customers, you know what I mean?
All right, let's wrap up with the last question, guys. We are way over time. Debbie's killing me, and the hotel wants to go. So, Sean, you can choose the last question. Who's it going to be?
I need to say a hand.
On our hands, shall we call it?
Oh, yeah, you got the last one here.
Nick, just now you mentioned something about handing out photographs and things like that. Now, I have a Luno wallet, and I've done exactly that.
Sure.
Can you expand on that, please?
Sure. So one of the biggest concerns that I think banks and institutions have nowadays around the crypto asset space is money laundering. So there's anti-money laundering prerequisites that they have, and Luno is doing a really good job of working with SARB to make sure they comply with everything. But as part of that process, they need to know source of funds, source of income, and KYC, which is know your customer. So Luno requires you to upload your passport, proof of residence, similar to like FICA or RICA. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I trust Luno to have the best protection mechanisms to secure those. However, there are multiple exchanges out there where to open up an account you need to upload the same information, and you don't, because it's an unregulated industry, you actually do not know what kind of security mechanism they have in place to protect that information if there was a data breach. So it's coming that one of these big exchanges is going to get compromised, and my ID and my identity will end up being out there my name, date of birth, nationality, all of that. And it's unfortunately too late now. My passport is on numerous exchanges. But going forward, I think there needs to be a completely new way to prove that you are you. And it's not going to be a paper ID or passport. It's going to be probably along the lines of a private key or something like that. And you get to choose what information you disclose. It's your information, and you only disclose what you want to have disclosed. I think Civic have just partnered with some brewery or SAP or the Budweiser, thank you. And for example, you will be able to disclose just that you're legal age before it pours your beer. So there's nothing wrong with Luno, they're doing a fantastic job, but going forward, I think the whole concept of how you identify that you are you needs to change. Because in this digital space, if someone has your ID book and your proof of residence, how does the guy on the other side of the world know that whoever's pretending to be you is not you? And the latest thing that exchanges kind of do is you have to take a selfie with you and your passport and a piece of paper with your signature and the date code, so they're trying to prove that the ID or whatever you're showing is still relevant, so it's the same date or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting problem that needs to be solved. And IME, so what they're doing, sorry, to just summarize quickly, is that you upload your information, you don't really upload it, you put it into a system and it literally fragments it into multiple pieces and sends it out, and any particular individual entity verifying it doesn't see the full picture. So it'll say, is this a Springbok or is this a Soviet flag? And based on that, it'll know that your passport was actually a South African passport. And then it'll say, what are these 5 letters? And they'll throw some letters in there and they'll say ALL something. Oh, that might be Alan, which is my surname. So it's a very good way of keeping your identity or your identity private, but still allowing verification by consensus. It's very interesting. It's got a lot of it.
Awesome, great. Guys, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much to the panel. Let's just give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Please visit the various mining rigs outside, Kevin's merchandise table. Stay around at the bar, have a drink, ask Jevon some questions about Aircon, and we'd love to answer any more questions as well. Have a great night, and we'll see you at the next event. Cheers.